How's it going, everybody? We are getting the show ready to go live. I guess we are live. The countdown has begun. Woo! Woo! Hi. I'm sending out the text message here. I forgot to put the fact that we are not on YouTube into the text message. I gotta do that real quick. No YouTube. Try Rumble. Gonz is talking to me as if I don't know things. There we go. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. If you're on Rumble or DLive or Odyssey or one of our many outlets, YouTube is down again, which is horrible for so many reasons. But we're staying strong, staying firm in our convictions. But we had put out a call for anybody who wanted to open the pre-show in prayer, and we have one to play now. This is from Producer Anonymous, opening up the pre-show with a prayer.
After watching 3 disturbing videos this morning, I feel that we need a prayer for the righteous, and a prayer for our enemies, and a prayer for God's kingdom. For these times are only getting started. Pray for patience, pray for wisdom, and pray for guidance. Lord God, hear our prayer. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you very much, Producer Anonymous, for that. Amen and amen, and we agree. And I think it's just about time that we start the show. So we're going to do that. Everybody who made it to the show today, please take a second and share the link out wherever you can. Because without the YouTube, things just difficult. You know, it's just difficult around here. The text message, if it is not yet, should be arriving in your mailbox in just a moment, your inbox rather. But I think we should get this show started. Let's do it.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Crime News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is March 24th, 2023. We are live to tape with episode 605. And today, Sacred Silica. And signing on from off the grid, Razzle Dazzle. I'm your best buddy, Basil.
And my name is Gonz of The Face Like the Sun, Resurrection, director of the Age of Deceit films. Wife calls me the Cabana Boy, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ. Live to tape from cold California to bring you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events and today's emergent phenomena, other than our live chat screen not working. Sandy, not the name, the substance. Sandy, you know.
Yes,
like the beaches.
The substance of sand. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, Gonz, we're doing it. It's Friday. We're all feeling very excited about that. Just a quick reminder, we are not on YouTube today, so sorry, YouTubers. Hopefully they get our newsletter or the text messages, and they've found their way to Rumble or Odyssey or DLive or something like that. Or maybe they're just checking in on the RSS feed on their podcast player. Hello, podcast people. We're happy you're here. You're the silent majority. The silent majority of thousands of people who listen to the podcast don't show up live, and yet are still a force to be reckoned with. Today, Gons, we got a good show, very tech heavy, but some important updates. Before we get into it, why don't we open up that big old can of disclaimer?
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. Here we go.
It's time for a disclaimer.
Now listen up.
YouTube. That's right. And just for all the content moderators and censorship managers out there, be they robots or humans, everything you hear on this show comes directly from the mainstream corporate news media. We do not claim to be experts on healthcare, geopolitics, military strategy, corporate law, or the moral and ethical implications of any of these topics, nor do we implicitly or explicitly support or subscribe to any sources or narratives containing misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation, as defined by the Department of Homeland Security. We're good boys. All right, YouTube, we're good boys. They're on to us. They know we're the bad boys of corporate media deconstruction. And let me give you a rundown.
Oh, look, here's Basil.
Let me bring you up to speed.
Starting out, we're going to be examining some new legislation in the U.S., but coming to a state and a country near you. They may claim to disagree with how China does things in their country, but on the inside, you know, they're huge fans. Some new legislation in Utah with some reminiscence of the Chinese Communist Party. Then during the FLIPPY update, FLIPPY's coming to Disney in all sorts of ways. Of course, we know that nothing could possibly make it into the hearts and minds of an entire generation without first showing up at Disney. Then, data, baby. We're going big. JPMorgan will be testing some biosecurity measures. JPMorgan just all over the place recently. And speaking of biosecurity, we are going to be checking back in with our favorite orb recently. Of course, we've made friends with the Chinese spy balloon, the spy buoy in Japan, orbs of all kinds. And now we're checking in with our first love, the Worldcoin orb. Yes, big news there with Sam Altman. And then just to check in on the new normal. Second half of the show, we are going to be exploring an extravagant rundown by Wired about the holiness, the divinity, the godlike nature of technology and the temples in which it is created. Then at the end of the show, checking in with Pray, the Bible app. Have you always wondered how to pray? Well, let artificial intelligence teach you how. But first, Gons, our lead stories.
Welcome to Chinese news.
Comes from China. 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 It's not racist at all, no.
Chinese psyops.
Yep, there's a lot of things. And we're going to start with a story from the New York Times. And the headline, Utah law could curb use of TikTok and Instagram by children and teens. And of course, yeah, of course, we're on the heels of the big hearing with the CEO of TikTok, some interesting ties to Goldman Sachs and Stanford, I think, was in there too. Mm-hmm. But
showing up in front of Congress. He did. Yeah. He was less robotic and alien lizard-like than Mark Zuckerberg, but very reminiscent of the Mark Zuckerberg appearances.
Well, in light of all the anti-TikTok sentiment shared by both parties, Republican and Democrat, it was interesting to see somebody sit in the hot seat, Asian descent. I think he's from Singapore, I believe. His wife is from Taiwan, or at least she's a Taiwanese American who's also a CEO of some huge, institutional thing, financial institution thing. So everybody's sharing clips from that hearing and everything else, but I think this story is where the direction of things are headed. And what we should be paying attention to. So the headline, Utah law could curb use of TikTok and Instagram by children and teens. Here's what it says. Governor Spencer J. Cox of Utah signed a sweeping social media bill on Thursday afternoon that can dramatically limit youth access to apps like TikTok and Instagram, potentially upending how many minors in the state use the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Broad statement.
Yeah.
Broad ramifications.
The Utah legislature passed the measure this month, despite opposition from tech industry groups and civil liberties experts. It is the first state law in the nation that will prohibit social media services from allowing users under 18 to have an account without the explicit consent of a parent or guardian. The new measure will also require social media or social networks to give Utah parents access to their children's posts, messages, and responses, and it will require social media services to block Utah minors from accessing their accounts from 10:30 p.m. to 6:30 a.m., a default setting that only a parent or a guardian will be able to modify. Now, it's leaving a lot of power in leaving a lot of the power in the hands of the parents, which is somewhat good, I think. In a sense, it's like, okay, parents, be responsible for your children's social media use. So I can get behind that sentiment. However, for the government to start doing lockups of accounts and things of that nature, it starts sounding a lot more like what China was doing that we've heard reports of over the last few years with social media or video games. I think there was something where the Kids can only spend so many hours playing video games.
Yeah, that's how China does it. You have a timer. If you're under, I think it's 14. If you're under 14, you only get some, I don't know what the amount is, but there's like a schedule that you have the ability to access social media, play video games, especially online video games, things like this. It's built right into the law. And this is a weird one. This is where the really clever moves are made. Because of course, this is sort of banking on the emotional responses from parents. And, in America, there's a big movement, in both directions when it comes to parents' ability to micromanage their children or manage the influence that they receive from participating in society as a whole. Access to social media and video games is one of them. And, plenty of parents, the tools exist right now anywhere where parents who are proactive in their children's internet use, they can set their own timers, they can set their own net nannies and do the thing if the parent wants to. But in Utah, in the spirit of putting power back in the hands of parents, which especially on the conservative side of things is an
appealing message,
an attractive
appealing
idea.
Packaging.
Now, I think this has roots. This current situation has roots in Florida, where they are trying to return more power to the parents in terms of what gets taught in school, which has been a bit of a battleground, but has reignited this idea that parents should be the ones, if anybody is going to have control over what the kids do, or have influence in what they learn or how they socialize, it's the parents. So this parent-based policy campaign, which I think gained a lot of power, or a lot of momentum rather, in Florida in regards to limiting the school system, I feel like it's transferred over into Utah, but it is revealing some interesting strings getting pulled. And this is what makes politics and policy and legislation so touchy, so complicated. Because on one hand, yes, it's a great idea to limit teens' use of the internet. Yes, it is a great idea for parents to be more involved in their kids' interactions on the internet. But no, I personally don't think that installing the infrastructure to control the use of the internet by a private citizen is going to lead anywhere good. Because once this program is in place, all it takes is a couple clicks of a button, change those, change the age range or whatever, change whatever the parameters are, and boom, the government's able to lock anyone out of the internet for any reason. Sure, next it'll be prisoners, or if you have a criminal record, you'll lose your internet privileges. What it's really doing is this campaign, this social campaign to put power back into the hands of parents is a bit of a Trojan horse.
It's a trap.
To putting the government in the role of parent over adults. If you can sign on and agree that the government can limit certain things, even as a well-meaning parent, you're just setting up the situation where the government will feel like they are your parent and be able to control you as a consenting adult and your access to what in this case is often being talked about a public utility. In our fervor, our anti-China authoritarian fervor, we have become the monster that we so fear so dearly.
Yeah, and I say it's a multiple layered trap because these parents, they're going to need assistance on how to track the kids' social media network, and who's going to step in to help with all that. That can also just be another place where the data can be siloed and captured.
Oh, well, yeah, it's interesting because everything any piece of data that the children could generate online, it's funny because it can already be accessed by the companies, as is, sort of obvious with TikTok with Facebook and Google, and all of them can access your data. But this one makes that data available to the parents, which already exists. Again, this is making a law about something that already exists. Proactive parents can already set timers. They can already get access to all the data. All of this already exists, but it's de-anonymizing. It's a trap. It's de-anonymizing any kind of anonymous behavior online. And I don't even think it's that.
Well, yeah, because
it's already de-anonymized. There's
I know,
nothing
but even
that
more
you do on social media that's actually anonymous.
Yeah, but now we know when it's somebody who's a child who's creating data on the internet. Whereas before, you could be using your parents' phone. There's a little bit more ambiguity. Or you can just be on some.
I think the details of the bill kind of spell that out. It's there's an age limit when you get an account on Facebook or TikTok or whatever. You're going to have a parent prove you are who you are, and there's no difference in the data or in the form of what's going on. And that's the point. The point is there's no technical difference in what the capabilities are on any level, whether it's data or restriction or whatever. There's no technical difference. The only difference is that parents in Utah have handed over the admittedly rough job of parenting a child who's on the internet, admittedly an exhausting proposition. But now they are handing that responsibility over to the government, who then will use it as a stepping stone to installing similar protocols, similar legislation for grown adults. I think this is a really bad idea. And the fact that it's a Republican bill shows that conservatives are not immune from being taken advantage of.
Completely.
Yes, Republicans can also be technocrats. Can you believe it? We think of technocrats and billionaires and all as Democrats and liberals with a few minor exceptions. But in this case, you have some fairly low-level legislators in Utah who have installed basically a pilot program that can be replicated across the country, a pilot program to controlling access to the internet altogether on sort of broad sweeping angle of the story, but also social media in particular. With all the talk about the Twitter files and the censorship and things like that, putting in a program like this is just begging for abuse by the government, not just on children, but on adults as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing that I was going to mention about this is the article continues on and talks a lot about how, parents can prevent their children from having a sense of belonging, which they can find on social networks. And how are you going to deal with that? And at the end here, the Utah measure, which applies to social networks with at least 5 million account holders worldwide, is scheduled to take effect on March 1st, 2024. So the countdown begins here. The Arkansas legislature has introduced a similar bill that would require social network platforms to verify users' age and obtain explicit parental consent for people under 18. A bill introduced in Texas is even more stringent. It would ban social media accounts for minors. So,
hey, there you go.
I'm telling you, this TikTok thing, whether you agree with it or not, it's going to cause a lot.
It's the tip of the iceberg.
And it's going to create a lot of social tension between children and their parents, even more so. Not that we had, didn't have stuff like that to cause problems with parents and children before.
Oh, sure.
But it's just going to drive it, even to a next level here. And I think what was that? What were you going to say?
Oh, I got one last point before we move on.
Okay. I was just going to mention Luke 12:53 about the passage. They will be divided, father against son, son against father, mother against daughter, that whole thing just coming to pass even more intensely as, digitization causes harder lines to be drawn, especially in online activity and what we're doing online. So very interesting.
The social aspects, the PR for this legislation is very elegantly sort of executed, because you have conservatives begging for internet censorship and control by the government over a public utility. Yay, we got conservatives to vote for big government. Great job. Not only the support is excellently executed, but the controlled opposition as well is brilliant, because here's some of the opposition. Here's a quote from Dr. Coyne, who has studied how time spent on social media affects adolescence. You've got a scholar here advocating against the Chinese Communist Party legislation. And he says, quote, "We know that marginalized youth, such as LGBTQ kids, use social media in some really important ways to find belonging and support, especially when they don't have family support." So the opposition to the communist control of the internet by big government is being framed in the social media, social justice, woke type of terms. So that already any conservative who stops to think about it for a second is going to get accused of being too woke. If the opposition only frames it around marginalized groups and things like this, no conservative, at least one in office, is going to have an easy time saying, hey, wait, guys, hold on. No, maybe we shouldn't be handing this type of power over to the government. A lot of bad things can happen here. No, he's woke, get him out of office, whatever. So really well done, whoever had the job of setting up this little mind game. But yeah, it's very concerning and got almost no coverage.
It was the quiet part to all the TikTok hearings going on.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. And there's more to come, so we'll keep an eye on it.
Yep.
And with that, Gons, there's more to come. And by more, I mean the weekend. It's Friday, baby.
It's Friday,
Keep playing with the Friday thing.
You gonna learn today.
Cause it's Friday. You ain't got no job. And you ain't got shit.
Are you not entertained? It's Friday. It's Friday.
Beep, bop, bop, boop, boop, boop. Yay, it's Friday, Gons. How you doing?
I'm all right.
You don't sound like it.
There are things. There's always things.
Do you want to share?
No, I don't. But there is something I do want to share. So did you know, Basil, that in the nation state where my genetics hail, Japan. There's about 125 million people there. And, this last year we just had, I think the inverse or something happened where there were more people who died than were born, like more Japanese people died than were born.
Reverse population growth.
Yeah. However, these last few days, there was a sports ball event.
I'm watching sports. Sports did good. Ooh, did the ball go?
The ball goed, and it was the World Baseball Classic, the American pastime, baseball. And the final game was between Japan and the U.S. So it was like a existential crisis on full display in the form of baseball. And, you know how sports is sort of the only place where there's like storybook endings with games and, setups that are very epic and memorable and things of that nature. Well, that happened in this game because for the final out, or the final out of the game, two teammates in the major leagues from the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. I don't know why they did that with their name, but basically the local team here where I grew up around, they have two players. One of them from Japan. His name's Shohei Ohtani. He's considered the modern day Babe Ruth. He can pitch, as I'll show here, 100 miles per hour or, hit home runs. And then his teammate, not Tim Salmon. I'm thinking of old baseball players. What was his name? I forget. Somebody in the chat will know. Anyway, these two guys are going head to head for the final out. And it was one of the craziest things ever. So 125 million people in Japan, 65 million people in Japan were watching this game. Half the country. And I think they said it was about 100 million people worldwide watching it. So huge numbers. This was the final out. I just edited a clip together. And so here we go.
Japan will do everything right to win a ball game. And they're 1 out away with their leader, their captain. Manu Manu right here. USA's captain versus Japan's captain.
First time they've ever faced each other. They've been teammates for 5 years. The best against the best. Ohtani's 1-0.
100 mile per hour.
100 miles an hour.
Right over the plate.
Trout swings and misses.
Another 100 mile per hour swing and miss.
USA down to its final strike in the 9th inning. 3-2 from Ohtani. He throws. Trout strikes out swinging. Ohtani and Japan celebrate a World Baseball Classic championship.
I'm watching sports. Sports did good. Ooh, did the ball go?
So there you go. There's my
very exciting.
My moment of I guess clarity. I guess I have no idea. It was very interesting watching it because it was literally, I'm born and raised in America.
So the Japanese national team beat the American team.
Yes.
Yeah.
On the final out, storybook ending, two teammates going face to face for the first time ever, and it was a strikeout, swing and a miss.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Is this some international signaling? Is the U.S. done for Japan to rise above the flames and take control of the world order?
No, because Americans don't take this whole World Baseball Classic thing seriously. They think it's a joke. It's an exhibition. Most other countries take it really seriously, but America's like, whatever. So no, I don't know about that. It's America, man. We're just gonna keep making guns, keep sending billions to Ukraine. Come on, bro.
And lose at baseball. Well, congratulations to the Japanese team there.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let me think. I don't think I have any.
I'm waiting for another skate update.
Howdy, partner.
Do you even get?
Interesting you say that. I actually had plans to go to the roller skating rink the past 2 Sundays, and just something came up, didn't do it. So I'll have to get back in there. I don't know what's going on. The Church of Skating has been rolling along without me, and it's been a while. So I'll give it a try. I'll try a little harder this time.
Okay.
Because yes, the world certainly needs a roller skating update.
I think you should take the emus with you.
That is something else. That's a good idea for like a children's book. You know, maybe I'll do a children's book for the supply drop coming up here. It'll be emus and roller skates. Yeah. I'll just add all of my quirky life details into one big story for children, because that's what my life basically amounts to.
You should narrate the story, but then you should play out everything. Have the ostrich play out everything. Or the emu, sorry, not ostrich. Emus. So you got the VR goggles on the emu, you know? Uh-huh. And the emu skating around, bumping into people.
Yeah, I have the technology and the know-how for sure. Yeah. I will get that done. Might need to get some animal wrangling license for bringing emus into public or something. Yeah. But you know what? What's owning exotic animals without a little bit of bureaucracy? Am I right, folks? Speaking of which, let's take a second and thank some executive producers.
Executive producers.
That's right. We're on the value for value model, which means we take zero corporate money whatsoever. There's a lot of reasons for that. It's not that we don't want corporations telling us what to and not to talk about. It's just it smells bad. You know, corporate money, it just stinks. So we don't take it. We don't want it. We don't want it. No, instead, we are entirely funded by producers of the show. Who are the producers? They are you. And it's not just a charitable opportunity to sort of put in a sort of emotional bid to thanking us for anything, although we do feel gratitude when people support the show. No, it is a paradigm shift in the way that media has been propped up forever. In the past, of course, you turn on your TV, you watch the news, you do all these things. You don't pay a dime because it is the advertisers who are paying it for you. And all you have to do is let some professional advertisers hypnotize you, mind control you into spending money you don't have on things you don't need, and boom, baby, it's free. It's free media. Well, not anymore. The discerning media consumer will know that if corporate money is involved, and I do mean that for quote-unquote independent producers as well, there are questions to be asked, like, what exactly are you independent from? Well, we're independent from everything except for the producers of this show. So if you get value, that's the thing. If you get value from this show, put value back in, because it's the only way it will exist. When producers stop receiving value and putting value back into the show, then the show just will stop. I mean, that's just sort of how it's the natural order of things. If you really think about it, there shouldn't be some sort of corporate necromancy keeping shows alive.
We don't get the podcast bailout plan from
yeah, exactly.
From Janet Yellen.
If there were a podcast bailout plan, we definitely would not get it. Oh. So with that, if this show brings any value to your life, consider being a producer. Not every single producer has to produce every single episode, but as long as people are being honest and generous with their desire for this show to continue, then it will. And there's all sorts of ways to produce. It's not just money. You can produce the show with your time, your talent, or your treasure. If you want more information, head on over to canarycry.support. Cool. CanaryCryRadio.com/support. And with that, the executive producers are people who come in with such generosity and honesty that they get a little bit of extra good treatment on the show. And we do have one executive producer for the show, which is nice. Are you ready to thank them?
Yes.
Okay. Well, this executive producer saw the newsletter, saw that there was no executive producer for this show, and went into action. And we appreciate it very much. We want to thank executive producer Morgan E.
Morgan E. coming in. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Executive producer Morgan E. Came in I believe with a nice round number. It was kind of hard to tell, but I think it was just a nice round number, which means we don't disclose it. Something to keep in mind when you produce a show. If it's a nice round, simple number, that's you telling us not to disclose the amount. If you don't mind us disclosing it, make it a funky number. You know, you can put 33 cents on there, 77 cents, something like that. But executive producer Morgan E. is on a 9-episode streak, which means Morgan is lit, fam.
Where'd you find this?
Hey, you lit now.
That's right. Thank you very much, EP Morgan E.
Where'd you find this?
Is that two jingles that both have the "Where'd you find this" thing?
Yeah, I think this is the first moment that anybody is realizing
That's
that.
so crazy.
I did not know that.
I bet you listeners knew that. We're the ones who are oblivious, even though it is right in front of us.
It's true. We are that to a lot of things. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Again, consider producing the show. It's not too late. CanaryCryRadio.com/support. And before we move on, Gons, I do want to mention CanaryCryMeetups.com.
Canary Cry Meetup.
That's right. The value just continues, folks. Go to CanaryCryMeetups.com. This is where you can find a list of all of the in-person meetups going on around the world. Indeed, around the world. No matter where you are, especially in the U.S., but of course other places. No matter where you are, there are Canarians within driving distance of you. It's just a matter of giving them a reason to come out of their cages and visit in person. And the way things are going, Gons, especially now with Deutsche Bank being a little wobbly today, another one is looking suspicious. The events of this world are creating a situation in which knowing, being familiar with, and perhaps even friends with other human beings near you who are on the level, who understand what's going on in the world, who understand that the mainstream corporate news media is not telling them all the details, and who understand what all of this has to do with the biblical worldview. They are out there, and knowing them in person is very important, because when things get crazy, you're going to have to start assembling your apocalypse team. This is a great way to do it. Put on or attend a Canary Cry meetup. If you go to CanaryCryMeetups.com, you'll see all the ones coming up. It includes St. Augustine, Florida on April 29th, Houston, Texas, May 13th, Glen Rose, Texas, May 27th through 28th. It's great. They're all over the place, folks. Texas being an especially good place to be a Canarian. But wherever you are in the world, if you want to put on a meetup, just send us an email at canarycryradio@gmail.com, and we'll put it on the page. And if you build it, they will come. So canarycrymeetups.com. We'll see you at the meetup.
This is fun! See you at the meetup.
Flippy?
Yep.
Flippy update. Do you want fries with that?
All right, folks, kind of an obvious one here, but the Flippy update. Flippy is our colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. We use talking about Flippy as a way to explore all the new, fun, and exciting ways that robots are taking over the world. Now there's nothing we can do about it. Today's Flippy update is coming from Sentinel.com, I believe. The headline: engaging robots could be roaming Disney parks in the near future.
Ooh.
I think it's a little bit I think that the sort of feigned uncertainty in this headline is the first clue that this is the beginning of the end. Engaging robots could be roaming Disney parks in the near future. A robotic rabbit wearing a helmet and roller skates tumbled out of a crate and got to its feet alone.
There's your skater.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, robots on roller skates, folks. Extending its arms to balance itself on a stage at Disney's panel at the South by Southwest conference this month. Whoa, I didn't know Disney had a panel at South by Southwest. South by Southwest is supposed to be like this super hip, indie, cool kid thing.
Extreme sports thing.
I I didn't know it was extreme sports. I thought it was more like music, and it's like a cultural gathering.
Yeah, it's culture, yeah.
And so, yeah, how could you have a sort of hipster independent gathering of cultural leaders without having the Disney Corporation show up? The robot, apparently modeled after the character Judy Hopps from Disney's 2016 animated film Zootopia, then skated across the stage into a somersault and returned to its feet in a triumphant pose, arms raised. As the audience cheered, a nearby Imagineer, Morgan Pope, steadied the robot as it leaned forward and lifted it onto his shoulders to laughter. Okay, that's a very strong man or a very light robot. Though the robot did not speak, its childlike actions charmed the audience, which was exactly Disney's goal.
Oh, giving away the plot.
Yeah, charmed is a very interesting term to use there because, of course, you know, charming, to be charming, to be charmed. Yeah. These are kind of general colloquialisms of you know, a pleasant person. But a charm is a practice or expression believed to have magic power, similar to an incantation or a spell. Charms are among the earliest examples of written literature. Among the charms, anyways, blah, blah, blah.
That's amazing that you know that offhand. That's crazy.
Yes, Britannica. Encyclopedia's Britannica's entry for charm. It's magic. They're casting spells, those robots. They're wizard robots. Anyway, where was I?
The panel.
Quote, This is our latest effort in making robots that we think can have an emotional connection with our guests. Pope, a research scientist with Disney's creative team, said during the event, quote, "We are using high-performance materials and taking advantage of mechanical scaling effects, so she is dynamic and tough." So there we go. They're making the emotional connection. Now, of course, I mentioned before in last Flippy update about nostalgia being such a powerful force for social change, social engineering. And I mean, what's more nostalgic to the millennial generation than Disney? And now Disney participating in the social engineering project that is making robots not only a part of our lives, but an essential part of our lives that we cannot part with. Not only are they helping us with chores and making our jobs easier, but also worming their way into our hearts to become one of us, to become people, to be loved. That's all they want, Gons, to be loved.
Well, you skipped the part that it mentioned the panel where this was presented is titled Creating Happiness, the Art and Science of Disney Parks Storytelling. It's like, you're creating the happiness. Is that true happiness, or is that like a illusory happiness?
They are creating, I don't think it matters, Gons. Happiness is happiness. Stop asking questions. Go watch more Disney. Theme park experts say advanced robotics technologies help bring popular film and TV characters to life in increasingly convincing ways, something visitors look for when they go to Disney.
They want to be deceived. Quote, it's true, Disney is a suspending disbelief place. That's the danger.
Indeed, it's magical. Quote, "It's an evolution of what Walt set out to do with the original park, and that's about entertaining the guests, engaging them into the experience, and guaranteeing that emotional moment. Something that's going to grab them by the heart," said Joe Lenzicero, an Imagineering veteran and current executive vice president and chief art director of themed entertainment company Zeitgeist Design.
Why do I picture Indiana Jones? The heart scene, you know, I picture like a robot arm just grabbing my heart directly out of my chest.
Num Shaddai. Yes, exactly.
Disney people.
And it goes into more about these robots and what goes into them. But, you know, Flippy Update is not just about the robots, but it's about the spell being cast upon society that is required for the public to buy in to the fact that these robots will soon surpass importance and relevance, surpass humans, that is. And it cannot be done without the powerful efforts of the magicians over at Disney, making these robots an essential emotional starting point for the normalization of robots in our lives, or perhaps robots as our masters. Dun, dun, dun. Mm-hmm. And there you go, Gons. That's the Flippy update for the day.
They all want to share their data.
Data.
Speaking of the beast system. Beast system.
Speaking of the beast system, we have Bloomberg here with the headline, JPMorgan test will ditch cards to let consumers pay with palm or face instead. You know, there's a prophecy that people make fun of. It's about this time when you have to have a mark on the right hand or forehead to buy or sell.
Yeah.
Do you think the people over at JPMorgan know about that passage?
Relevant.
All right, so here's what it says. JPMorgan Chase & Co., which, by the way, they thought they had nickels, but they had stones. It's another article that
that was just
about.
For Gons. It was just people. For me. If anybody feels confused or didn't get that, don't worry. It wasn't for you.
No. It's for everybody. You know, because Fox Business.
No, don't go into it. Go into this
JPMorgan Chase nickel bags turned out to be full of stones. So, okay. JPMorgan Chase & Co. is planning to test new technology that would let them pay with their palms or faces at certain U.S. merchants. The bank, home to one of the world's biggest payment processing businesses, plans to roll out the service to its broader base of U.S. merchant clients in the pilot program. If the pilot program goes well, according to a statement Thursday, the pilot may include a Formula One race in Miami, as well as some brick and mortar stores. Quote, the evolution of consumer technology has created new expectations for shoppers. Jean-Marc Thimpont, head of omnichannel solutions for JPMorgan's payments business, said in a statement, quote, merchants need to be ready to adapt to these new expectations, end quote.
Adapt or die.
Adapt or die. JPMorgan is seizing on the rising popularity of biometrics technology, which uses unique body measurements to authenticate a person's identity. The technology is expected to account for roughly $5.8 trillion in transactions and 3 billion users by 2026, JPMorgan said, citing Good Intelligence, Goode. 3 billion, that's a third of, more than a third of our humanity right now. And $5.8 trillion moving around, that's quite a bit. Here's how, I love this right here. Here's how it works. Customers enroll their palm or face through an in-store process. Then, at checkout, they scan their biometric to complete the transaction and get a receipt. Do they really need to spell that out like that? Don't you think people know what it means to have their palm?
No, I don't think so. I think we know because we've been talking about it for so many years.
Yeah.
But I think the average person isn't quite familiar. You know, talk about more opportunities to copy China. They hate China, and yet this is already in practice in China.
Yeah, they got brain scanners. What is it? Bus drivers or some kind of workers that had the helmets on, and they were, all that data was being collected from the helmets. So China's way ahead on all kinds of stuff. And
well, I mean, literally this exact thing. They have face scan and palm scan payments in China. It's becoming more and more prevalent over there. So yes, they have all sorts of stuff. But as far as this exact story and this exact product, this is pretty much a direct import from China.
Unbelievable. Yeah, and we're supposed to think that there isn't a takeover. I think we're losing, Basil.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's not even so much the takeover aspect of it. It's the Justin Trudeau syndrome. He on one hand can disagree with how China does things, but at the same time he comes out and says it directly. I admire China's ability for authoritarian control. He said that during COVID. Yeah. He admires what China is able to accomplish. accomplish. Not just able to accomplish, but the means by which they accomplish it. And it's all about control, monitoring, and, as far as in the West, we say we believe in liberty and freedom and individual rights and things like this. It is the nature of power. It is not that one government is good and the other government is bad. It is the fundamental nature of power that it only exists, or its prime directive rather, is to A, protect its own existence, and B, increase its power as far as physically possible. And so when we have our government complaining about China and the way they do things, if you watch their actions say that our government really admires China's ability to track and control its citizens with pretty much entire impunity and with absolute control. And this is a great way to do it. I'll tell you what, great way to do it.
China truly is the first movers on the inevitability of the technocracy rising, right? Because they put that authoritarian or autocratic flair on it, which is why the whole world is sort of like, oh, we got to catch up to China with the technology. Oh, they're doing face scans and palm scans. Well, I guess we should do that too, since they're using it. Yeah. They seem to be collecting all the data and it's working out well, so might as well. So it's this tone that was set as the first movers.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too. It's not that it's an authoritarian flavor or tone, whatever you said, authoritarian,
autocratic.
Yeah, sure. It's not that there is a version of this kind of technocracy that is autocratic and one that is democratic. Technocracy at its very fundamental principles requires absolute control. I mean, there is no way to do a truly fair democratic version of technocracy. A technocracy requires absolute control from the top down. And while an autocrat as a human, there's much more worry about convincing buy-in from the public and, pleasing voters and advocating for, oppressed peoples. The technocracy at its core, is run by technology, and part of that being the artificial intelligence side of it, the algorithmic, data-driven policy making type of thing. But it's at its very core, you have it built into the technology.
That is the point. Yes.
Constitutes. It's the technology part of it that is the absolute control. Right. And they try all they can to talk about, a democratic and fair technology-driven government, ignoring the fact, they know it, but they don't tell you it, that the technology in its very essence cannot operate without the autocracy or authoritarian control.
Yeah, it's exactly what Patrick Wood talked about in Age of Deceit 3 when he was quoting Prague Khanna, who's a technocrat. He talked about how it's not an individual that is the ruling thing; it's the system. The system is the ruler. So, and that's exactly what you're saying. That it's the technology itself when it distributes itself. So, it's an interesting thing, and to see it affect the banks and everything else is quite alarming. But things get weirder. It doesn't get any better from here. It just it gets worse.
Dater.
Did you ever have the feeling that you were being watched?
They all want to share their data.
Yeah, this is fortune.com in the crypto section. The headline here. Oh, it's crypto. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, crypto. Where's the crypto? Is this a crypto? Where's the crypto? There's the crypto.
Is this a crypto?
Bitcoin.
Crypto? Do I look like I know what a crypto is?
The headline here is OpenAI's Sam Altman wants to convince billions of people to scan their eyes to prove they aren't bots. Meet WorldCoin, the founder's crypto project. Now, if you're a listener of Canary Cry News Talk for some years, I believe we first reported on this when it came out back in 2021, I believe, was when we first started hearing about it, and we mentioned it and reported on stuff that was out then, which, if you recall, that there's an orb. You look into the orb, and it scans your iris, and that's how you validate your humanity to the system.
Yeah, this one was so funny because we were covering this WorldCoin and the orb, the all-seeing orb. But back when even cryptocurrency wasn't a very popular topic or concept in the mainstream.
Not as mainstream as it is
in the mainstream,
now.
Where it is now completely mainstream. And so this idea that you would make WorldCoin and this little floating orb comes into they were doing it in the context of Indian villages before, where they could bring this orb into an Indian village, ask every villager to stare into the orb, and let the orb create a digital identity for them and a wallet and scan their irises and, induct them into the sort of occult, technocratic New World Order. As a joke, Gons, did I think that this orb would have any chance of surviving until 2023? No, I did not.
Really?
It was ridiculous.
I thought different at the time too, because of who was behind the project.
Yeah, but it could be the person behind the project, but to have a literal orb. It is a literal shining orb that a white man will carry into the jungle village and ask the villagers to stare into the orb and become part of technocratic society. Yeah, no, Gons, I didn't think the orb would make it this far. The plan, maybe.
That's just coming
the system,
from a place of shame.
The guy, maybe, but the ridiculous shining all-spark to get... No, I did not think that it was going to last.
That's from a place of shame. Shame blinded you to the facts.
For those who are just listening, you may remember the orb, but they have an updated version of the orb. It is a little smaller than a basketball, a literal just orb, and it's shiny chrome, very reflective, and it has one big eyeball in the middle of it with a camera that's inside. It looks ridiculous, like it would be a character or an object on like an 80s sci-fi cartoon. And no, this is the one eyeball that will be carried from village to village, and anybody who stares into it is inducted into the new heaven and the new earth that is, Elon Musk's technocratic utopia, or in this case, Sam Altman.
Yeah. Okay. The WorldCoin orb resembles a bowling ball conceived by...
They call it an orb.
Yes, it's the name of the... Yeah.
They might as well be calling it a Chinese spy balloon or a Japanese spy buoy. Remember, it was just the past month or so that orbs were all the rage. It used to be that triangles were the cool shape.
Think of the mind control or the predictive programming here. You got spy orbs, and then all of a sudden the orb comes and you must look at it to participate in the system. I don't know, man.
Is all.
I don't know.
Orb is all.
I don't know. The WorldCoin orb resembles a bowling ball conceived by Steve Jobs or an oversized Magic 8 ball, possessed by HAL 9000. Its glossy exterior envelops the sphere, save for a gaping black circle in the front that houses 3 sensors positioned in a triangle.
Yeah, good. You've got a triangle inside the orb.
Making the object round was an engineering nightmare, but the symbolism was too vital to ignore.
See, and I love that. It was a nightmare to making it an orb.
This is unreasonable, Sam, but it must be.
It had to be an orb. Yeah, it's like he was given instructions from a prophecy or something that would make no sense to the average person, or not even the average person.
To the engineers.
The knowledgeable engineers tasked with creating the orb. It was ludicrous. And he's like, no, it must be an orb, or else the prophecy cannot be fulfilled.
Oh man!
And they admit that it's symbology.
Yeah,
like
hello. Yeah, symbolism was too vital to ignore. The orb isn't a perfect sphere, but
vital. You said vital is an interesting word to use there. The
because it is
was too vital to ignore. Vital doesn't. The vital doesn't just mean like, ooh, it's very striking and looks cool,
right? But it was a functional.
Yeah. Vital means they couldn't do it without it being an orb.
Yeah.
If it weren't an orb, it would not work. That's what the vitality of it means.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
The orb isn't a perfect sphere, but two halves that come together at an angle that matches the orb of the Earth. Designed...
Oh, thanks. It's not an orb. It's two half orbs put together.
Designed by Thomas Meyerhofer, the first hire of Apple legend Johnny Ive. Architectural marvel that it is, the orb serves a simple purpose. It scans your iris and converts the biometric image into an impenetrable string of numbers, which Worldcoin refers to as an iris code. When combined with an algorithm, the code verifies you're a unique human. Each week, about 40,000 people subject themselves to the scan. On a chilly Sunday in March, I became one of them, with an orb-carrying Worldcoin employee stopping by my cramped Brooklyn apartment. This is like a religious experience. That's the theme of this episode, is the religious experience of technology. I mean, it is very prevalent now. We talked about it for so many years. But yeah,
that's what today's show is all about, by the way, in case anybody didn't get it. Yeah, they have missionaries going house to house with the orb. Yeah. Look into the orb. Join the Worldcoin.
After 2 years of reading about the company, I welcomed the opportunity to meet the orb face to face. Meet the orb. Finally, once the technician wrestled it from a specially designed backpack and connected it to an internet hotspot. Takes the magic away a little bit. I was able to stare into the depths. The orb responded with beeps and bops, lighting up white and red as it scanned my iris and beamed the encoded results back to the mothership. After about 45 seconds, the World app on my phone illuminated, revealing that I had been successfully verified. I was myself, after all. It's a weird, like, sci-fi thing, like I am me. Silicon Valley these days is short on fanciful ideas. Okay, there's Uber for X, Reprise, yada, yada, yada. Worldcoin, in contrast, might be original to a fault, starting with the orb, perhaps the most iconic piece of hardware since the iPad.
Oh, please.
Then comes the pitch. There are 8 billion people on Earth. How do we prove each person is real? Worldcoin solution is cataloging every individual over 18 years old. There you go. There's that tie-in with the earlier story.
The age limit.
The age limit. Sure. Through a privacy-preserving protocol, rewarding each person with cryptocurrency, which in turn will become the new global monetary standard. This guy is... everything about this is like, yeah, maybe, they'll roll it out or whatever, except the part where it's like Worldcoin becomes the monetary standard. It's like, I don't know about that part. I don't know if that's going to work. The word ambitious.
Every crypto bro ever when they make their own.
Exactly. The word ambitious doesn't do justice to either the idea or co-founder Sam Altman, also the creator of OpenAI. So it's the same guy who helped co-create OpenAI, which is the creator of the ChatGPT tool. So this is where the rubber meets the road in terms of
a lot of heat.
How much this will actually be deployed because of who it is. So, okay, so it talks about proving humanness. It talks about the tools of humanity, which is the parent company to WorldCoin. I think we made fun of it last time too. Tools for humanity, like, hey, bro, are you a tool?
He's a tool for humanity.
He's being a tool, man. Don't be a tool. And it goes into some things about how one of the workers there said, quote, "We know it sounds weird, and it sounded weird to us as well when we started the project, but it is fundamentally the only way to solve that problem." The problem being, just the identification issue. The sheer audacity of WorldCoin attracted top investors, with the company reaching a valuation of $3 billion by early 2022.
Yeah,
$3 billion.
Jeez Louise. That's part of the SVB collapse was the overvaluation of startups, of tech startups specifically. That's what collapsed SVB. So, these valuations of tech startups are evidently and apparently a little blown out of proportion. It's interesting. The cult-like language about WorldCoin. There was a couple words in that last sentence. Can you just read it real quick again?
Yeah, the sheer audacity of WorldCoin attracted top investors, with the company reaching.
Yeah, sorry, it was the one before that.
The one before that. What did I read before that? It's the quote here. "We know it sounds weird, and it sounded weird to us as well when we started the project, but it is fundamentally the only way to solve that problem."
That's what it is. So, you look into cults and what constitutes a cult and stuff like this. But part of it is, a charismatic leader who holds the only answer. This WorldCoin, the stare into the orb. It's the only answer
only way we can
to prove who you are.
Yeah.
There's no other way to prove that you are a human without looking into the orb. The orb makes you who you were meant to be. The orb makes you who you are.
Think of all the problems that are being presented right now as sort of the setup. You have the bots, the election issue with the mail-in ballot. Election is huge. That's a big part of this.
For sure you will look into the orb to vote.
You want to vote? Look into the orb. Here's another quote, or just out of the article. It's not a quote, but this part surprised me as well. Maybe not surprised me, but interesting to see it written in black and white. After Bloomberg first reported on WorldCoin in June 2021, that's probably when we reported it, the orb quickly became a lightning rod for attention and outrage. Part of that was by design. WorldCoin's executives and investors told Fortune. They knew it was going to be an issue. They knew that people were going to hate it. And people like us are going to be like, you're going to stare into the orb. But maybe we were played, Basil. Maybe that was the plan all along. We just played right into the plan.
Well, we know this. This is how they always do it. Like, that is the point. The point is to provoke.
Yeah.
And not just provoke in like a marketing way, but it's the energy, the human reaction, the attention put on a thing that gives it its occult power.
Yeah.
And, they're already basing the whole thing on a bunch of occult principles. And so why not also bake in some chaos magic to the PR campaign?
There's a quote here. "The surest way for WorldCoin to fail is for nobody to hear about it," says Jesse Walden, a co-founder and general partner at Variant Fund. Even so, the company's aspirations, a decentralized future where people are scanned and recorded by a Silicon Valley-backed company, had the familiar whiff of colonialism. Although WorldCoin's parent company, Tools for Humanity, insists that the process will someday be fully open source and run by the nonprofit WorldCoin Foundation. Unsurprisingly, the company has suffered a torrent of ridicule and exposés, including from Edward Snowden, who tweeted that, quote, "The human body is not a ticket punch," end quote. And they go into some places where they really rail after him, or after WorldCoin, but they basically say that, hey, we're in beta. Like, it's not supposed to be perfect yet, okay? Back off. Leave us alone. Let us perfect the technology before we have billions stare into the orb. And, you can read the rest of the article. We do have the article linked to the actual worldcoin.org website, where they have the introducing WorldCoin ID and SDK, that's software development kit. Any kind of, software company, they always have an SDK where they can roll it out and people can build on it. And it says your World ID is a new privacy-first protocol that brings global proof of personhood to the internet. Proof of personhood, Basil. In light of, we've been talking about, the personhood of animals and the personhood of robots and all this kind of stuff. If we're talking about brain communication, microchipping, proof of personhood could extend well beyond humans. If you got, old Bucky, your dog, microchipped, and then, maybe a little brain chip, and he's got to log into the internet to make sure he orders his next batch of dog food, he might have to stare into the orb too to get proof of personhood, so he can make sure he's getting his order.
Yeah, even more so if you haven't stared into the orb and there's no proof that you're a person. Now remember, person is not human. Person is legal entity.
Right.
So much like now, if you don't have a social security number or something like that in the U.S., things are difficult, not impossible, but difficult.
Yeah.
In the same way, if you haven't stared into the orb, you're not a person. We cannot verify your personhood. Perhaps you are a robot posing. Perhaps you are an alien. Who knows?
This would
you could imagine.
Yeah.
You could imagine a world in which proving that you're a person can have some benefits or downsides.
Well, this would also bring full transparency to when, the first machine or animal is declared a person, because everybody will know. Everybody will see it. It'll be in the database.
Be in the database.
WorldCoin aims to address the privacy-first self-sovereignty in a decentralized way. This is made possible through the World ID Open Protocol. If successful, it will become the largest network of authentic humans on the internet as a public good. I really, they're really trying to push for the goodwill of, I don't know, like internet sovereignty.
Yeah, it's the double speak of libertarianism, internetism.
Yeah.
This idea that every person is a sovereign being and shouldn't be beholden to corporations or governments in all sorts of essential ways. But at the same time, it is literally building the most perfect example of what authoritarian governments would like to have at their disposal.
Yeah.
They're using the doublespeak of this is sovereignty, this is decentralization, this is that. But when you actually consider what system they're talking about, they are literally building Xi Jinping's dream setup.
Yeah. Well, and I think going back to the idea that it's the system, it's not necessarily a person, in terms of the antichrist element here in this technology. I did, looking at under the hood a little bit, trying to kind of figure out what the technology actually is. They talk about zero knowledge proof and ZK stuff, which technically is sort of it's a way to verify something without giving away all your data. It kind of verifies it's kind of like a meta verification process.
Yeah.
Without getting too technical. But, here's the thing. To our point about framing this as some sort of sovereignty type of project. Here's what it says. The first hardware device to support the standard of this decentralization and all this, is the Orb with a capital O, an open iris imaging device developed by TFH. It's mobile and easy to use, designed to operate in untrusted environments, and above all, engineered to protect privacy even beyond the zero-knowledge cryptography of the base protocol by running its 7 neural networks locally on device. So not even, attaching it back to some kind of main hub. It's that these orbs themselves will contain the neural networks that will remember the proving.
Local verification.
Yes, but that makes them like oracles almost.
The mothership
I think you
need
cut
to
out.
connect Sorry.
Yeah.
It won't need to connect to the mothership. It won't need to, have a signal, at least eventually is what they're sounding
but they
like.
become
Yes, that each individual orb is its own sovereign copy of the system.
Yes, they become their own. Yeah,
and all the data, not just the system.
Right. So it's very interesting. It almost gives them. They become oracles. They become physical oracles.
Right.
That become almost sacred.
Not just a window. Not just a window to the information, but the holder of the information itself.
Right. Only the orb can decrypt to make, to verify. It's not any individual. Importantly, World ID is not derived from or tied to its holder's biometrics, phone number, crypto wallet, or any other identifier. Following the passport analogy, proof of personhood verifications, including the orbs, are essentially stamps that allow the holder to prove that a specific passport has been verified without revealing information about the verification or the passport itself. So again, sounds nice, but what's going to happen to the way humans treat these orbs once they become ubiquitous in human society to verify yourself on the internet? They're going to become.
Well, you're right.
Their own temples, we can't disrupt the orb.
Icons.
Yes,
they're icons. They're holy objects. Oh, what was the word that we used? We were talking about how robots are better at religion than humans, and how
Hindu worship. Yeah.
Right, the Hindu robots, and they had a specific word for living spiritual object, where the object is alive, but not just alive, it is able to co-worship with you, or
like the act itself,
or
like
receive. It
the
can
movements.
literally receive the worship of the congregant or whatever.
Right. Yeah, this is right along the lines, and if you thought that this might not happen, are we living in a world where truly we're going to be staring into an orb to access the internet in a few years? This is madness. This is crazy.
And it needs, it's interesting, going back to his point about the vitality of it being the orb, the symbology being almost more important than the design. If these are basically put into practice as holy icons that contain your every right inside of them, any ability to do in the world is held individually inside of the holy object, the orb. It speaks, quite literally, to the plan from the very beginning of these becoming sort of divine objects. And as we've been reporting on recently quite a bit, not just the rhetoric around technology, specifically technology in the case of consumer goods, but in technocratic contexts, meaning the new reality is dictated and controlled and experienced through technology, and outside of it there is nothing. This is maybe the highest pedestal that we've seen so far. And the language of this type of, worship of technology is becoming more and more commonplace in more and more common locations too, which we'll see later on in the show. It's not just a weird blog. It's not just, a fringe magazine or something like that writing in these terms. It's the New York Times. It's the bastions of mass media are the ones that are adopting this language.
Yeah, and speaking of which, NBC News, just to cap off the Sam Altman segment here, NBC News reported in February, which was last month, Sam Altman is tech's next household name if we survive the killer robots. Sam Altman may be tech's next household name, but many Americans probably haven't heard of him. He's a Stanford dropout. Move over, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. Silicon Valley may have found its next star CEO.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yep, and he's already well known from OpenAI and yada, 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 and it goes on here. So he is being set up as the next guy because he does have first mover advantage on AI with ChatGPT and OpenAI and all that stuff. So
yeah,
man,
not a coincidence either that ChatGPT, GPT-4 now being such a I don't know, it's just everywhere. It's everywhere, and everyone and every company. I mean, there was another list of like 30 common online companies that integrated their own version of it into their product, not even just as a I don't know, a fun open source example or demo. Into their core products, they were putting, their version of ChatGPT, and it all comes from this guy, Sam. So, real quick, speaking of which, Gons, let me hit you with this this quick paradigm shift here over at Mother Jones.
$100 billion. I don't have any money.
I think this is a little off topic. It's not quite technocratically centered, but I think as time goes on, we will see more and more direct connections between what we've been talking about and what is to be brought up now. Specifically, the sort of holiness of technology in the language of sovereign personhood. MotherJones.com. For those who don't know, Mother Jones is sort of it's kind of like the indie, it's like the hipster New York Times. Very well-known outlet, very sort of revered by the left, leans a little bit farther left. By no means is it a what's the word? I don't know, objective observer or reporter.
That's not according to them. They're very objective.
Of course. And they are coming out with an interesting, very long article that some of it might seem familiar to you. So it goes like this. It's not a crisis. This is the new normal.
Ooh.
Talking about some new normal here. This would be so much easier if we could make up donors from whole cloth, like George Santos may have done. Or if we impersonated a YouTube executive to sing our praises on a Zoom call and raked in $83 million, but maybe minus being arrested for fraud in the end. Imagine if a billionaire with visions of grandeur sank $44 billion into Mother Jones instead of Twitter.
He who shall not be named in the article.
I know. That would be enough to fund us from now through the year 4,495 at our current 17+ million budget. Or how about reporting things that you know to be false to generate a record profit? Surely they're talking about CNN there. Just 3 months of Fox Corporation's revenue in 2021 could keep Mother Jones afloat until 2078. Dun, dun, dun.
I mean, if we apply that kind of math to us with these same numbers,
way more impressive.
Way further, man.
Way more impressive.
You guys are, we can make it to what, 2,800?
Probably more. None of those things are going to happen at Mother Jones. It's an interesting, comment there. Now, just to be clear, I'll say it up front. My goal is not necessarily to mock Mother Jones as an institution for what they're doing. Yeah. That's not the point of this. But it is funny because Mother Jones, an incredibly popular outlet, saying none of those things are going to happen to Mother Jones. And it is simultaneously a
Didn't it already happen,
lament. No. It's simultaneously a lament. Like, no billionaire is going to give us $44 billion. Nobody's going to give us $100 million out of nowhere. But it's also simultaneously a brag. It's like we're so punk rock. So
right.
which is
kind of like us.
look, I was going to say, I can identify with that. Nobody's going to give me $1 million either. And I feel like if anybody is simultaneously sad about not having $1 million and also taking pride in the fact that we're
that's us. Yeah,
that's us.
We can definitely.
Let me be clear.
Much further down the ladder, though. 17 mil a year is
quite a bit. Yeah,
we can do a lot with 17.
We could do a lot with 17 mil. Or do a little for a long time.
Yeah.
All right. But we can predict with a high degree of confidence that the months and years ahead will be tough for journalism.
All of journalism.
Yeah, all of journalism. It also seems safe to assume that a small but noisy group of reality-denying, extremist-enabling forces will continue to test and possibly break our democracy. There it is.
Wow. There
it is.
Is that us? Are we breaking democracy? Do you think Mother Jones would consider us as being reality-denying extremists that are destroying democracy?
Of course, because breaking democracy means, not joining in with the one chorus, the one voice, and the one message. If you divert from the one message coming from the authoritarian top towards the bottom, then you're anti-democratic. Get it?
Right. Okay.
It's double speak, Gons. This is how they live. And that presents some big challenges and big opportunities for what the Mother Jones community has always rallied around: the power of investigative journalism to foster accountability and change. How bad is it? Quote, "This will be a year of heightened concerns about the sustainability of some news media against a backdrop of rampant inflation and a deep squeeze on household spending," is the first sentence from a recent Reuters Institute report that found only 44% of news leaders are confident about the year ahead. For corporate media, okay, we're talking about corporate media, guns. For corporate media, the responses to this uncertainty have run along the lines of 1, shut down entire newsrooms, 2, big layoffs that leave a skeleton staff chasing thinner and thinner stories, 3, put up paywalls so you have to pay to read the information you were after, 4, ratchet up softer content because people are tired of news, 5, pivot to the latest magic bullet. Right now, the big money loves the idea that artificial intelligence will replace journalists. Grim options for a vigorous free press and a democracy where everyone needs to be informed and engaged. But Mother Jones has never been in the business of doomsaying, and we're not about to start now. I would love to go get some Mother Jones headlines.
I'm sure Mother Jones.
We don't have time for that. It's not about them
for a while, but yeah.
We're almost to the paradigm shift. Here we go. Because history tells us previously unthinkable change often happens during moments of upheaval. Yeah, no kidding. That's sort of the definition of moments of upheaval. Here's the deal. We need to come up with almost $6 million over these next 3+ months to finish our fiscal year break even. That's about a third of our budget for about a third of the year. So a third of the budget for about a third of the year. Okay,
that's right. Because they said $17 million budget earlier, and 3 times 6, 666.
Yeah, you're
666 right there in the article.
Hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
It says, so it can absolutely be done, but it's going to take all hands on deck. We've already cut all the expenses that we could from our budget this year to make sure we accounted for all the headwinds journalism faces, and there's no room for error. That means we have to raise about $650,000 in donations from our online readers by June 30th. It's a tall order and more than we've hoped we'd need to bank on, but we know that with your support, it's possible. Okay, real quick, there's a couple of numbers we're going to have to keep in our heads, okay? They say they need $6 million. The donation portion of that they are asking for is $650,000. So roughly 10% of the budget they need to make up is donations. You getting that? So 10% is from donations is what they need by the end of June. That number will
It'll come up again. Yeah.
It'll ask some questions later.
It'll answer some questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
We also know that there's a needle to thread. It's not that the challenges we face are entirely new. Mother Jones has been defying the odds and hanging in there through tough times for 47 years. That's a long time.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the economy, the state of journalism, and the stakes for democracy, it all feels more uncertain than ever right now. Different. So we wanted to take a level-headed look at how we can best adapt and best ask for the donations we need to keep charging hard. It's easy for fundraising to make it feel as if things are about to fall off a cliff, which is why your inbox is probably full of, oh no, OMG, help, emails. We have yet to send that one out, but it's coming, people. We don't want to be another voice in the cacophony. You read Mother Jones because we're loyal to the facts, and we're known to stick our neck out from time to time.
Oh, yeah.
So we're just going to be real about what we need to accomplish and why it's so incredibly important.
Mm-hmm.
So you got Mother Jones.
Yep.
Much like NBC, much like Washington Post, much like a lot of the larger corporate news outlets, is asking for donations.
Yeah. By the way, ranked 142 on the Harvard media list, the index that we always reference. So yes, it is a nonprofit. However, it is a top media outlet.
Oh yeah,
and left leaning, as we've already noted.
Extremely. Okay, here's some more numbers that are interesting. And again, I don't know how much I want to get into. It's not necessarily about Mother Jones, but it is about the paradigm shift of media in general. In general, the media has been provided for free, considering that the listener or the consumer of that media is a product. It is the attention, and your mind is a product that is sold to advertisers. And the world has sort of gotten used to this, and it's not very offensive to people, a lot of people. It should be offensive to all of us, but it's not so offensive to a lot of people. And what is more offensive to people is being asked to participate and share responsibility for the existence of things. And now I get it, because people are offended when we talk about the value for value model, and we make significantly less than $17 million a year. But the very act of this paradigm shift is very interesting to watch, because it is no longer, and they are not going for value, by the way, let me be clear, but it has become apparent that media, and news media especially, is no longer the sort of money. Let me say this. News consumers are no longer the profitable brains to wash as far as advertising goes anymore. And so even the mainstream outlets are going for this donor model. Now, here's the difference. The value for value model is sharing responsibility for the existence of a piece of media. It's sort of looping in everybody who receives value from it is then a part of what needs to be done for the existence of media. But when you find these big, huge news outlets asking for donations, which they're totally allowed to do, but then taking the stance that, hey, they basically say outright, hey, we can no longer sell your mind for as much money as we used to. Look, we used to, and y'all used to be really profitable for us, but no longer. So we're going to need you to pick up the slack. We're still going to advertise. We're still going to sell your attention, the very thing that is the core of your experience of being a human, that thing, we're still going to sell that to corporations who don't have your best interests in mind. But we're also going to try to work on your emotions and mine you for even more. And it's the combination of those things that is really offensive to me. It's one thing to be looped in as a participant of media. It's another thing to be sold and then sort of sucked dry on the left and the right. These are two different things. Now, this goes on and on and on. Do you have particular spots you wanted to hit? Okay, take me for a ride, guys.
For 47 years, our nonprofit model of being funded primarily by readers who aren't forced to pay but choose to pitch in has allowed us to weather storms big and small. But just like the bomb cyclones, heat domes, and mega droughts we're all becoming familiar with from the weather news, those journalism storms are intensifying as the underlying conditions change.
Colorful.
Yes. For a decade plus, advertising reliably made up between 11 and 15% of our budget.
That's weird.
Now it's 6%. Yep. And then you get into some
Okay.
other numbers about how.
So it's interesting because if 10% of their budget seemed to be donations and 6% of their budget was
advertising.
No,
it is now. It used to be 11 to 15%.
Sure.
10%.
I'm still missing a lot of percentage points.
Well,
This is a little weird.
if there were, if they're asking for 10%, I know what you're saying. You're saying where's the rest of the 80, whatever, 84% or 80%.
Right.
Where's that money coming from?
I'm sorry to interrupt. Continue.
Okay. It goes into how some of their posts aren't getting as much reach. At one point, Facebook showed our reporting to users as many as 83 million times in 1 year. Now it's just under 5. And then in parentheses,
nobody's sharing our stories.
I know.
Nobody's reading us and nobody's sharing our stories. So we can't make those advertising dollars.
It's interesting because, everybody kind of when things start dying, even us, Basil, we have, and I try not to have it because it's sort of, I don't know, it's not great, but it's sort of this victim mentality of like, hey, the social media got us, not considering that like maybe it's the content that's not really vibing with people anymore. Parentheses, our audience has been growing elsewhere, reaching more and more people on Instagram, for example, but where revenue on platforms like this used to be pennies on articles, now they've made it virtually impossible to generate any money at all. So this is the fundamental change in the ad structure with social media as well, which is proving that it's not just, it's not just a thing that's happening to Mother Jones. This is happening across the board. The whole advertising system is being changed and monetizing attention is being changed. And, I think we were ahead of the curve in terms of not us alone, obviously, John C. Dvorak, Adam Curry, No Agenda, doing the value for value model and looking at it that way. And, a lot of churches operate in a similar model. But I think that's the way to go in the future if you want to stay truly independent. For the last few months, a group of us from across the organization have been doing scenario planning, a new way for us to think through so much uncertainty, thanks to an incredible expert who offered pro bono help. Hey, they're getting some free help. We're considering different futures where democracy grows either weaker or stronger, and people become either more engaged in journalism or leave it behind thanks to atrophy, apathy, and outright attacks. It's early days, but already one thing is crystal clear. No matter which scenario we're looking at, building trust and better connecting with readers is essential, and we're excited to start working toward that and hear what you think at the bottom of this post, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I find it also interesting that they are leveraging this idea that journalism itself, like the organization, their organization cannot exist, in the same vein as journalism may become better or worse. They're the arbiters really of whether journalism survives. But it's very closed off, serving type of message, because I think journalism could continue without Mother Jones, and that's nothing against Mother Jones. It's just,
right. Yeah.
It's just reality of the situation. It's just them as a large entity.
And keep in mind, when they're talking about this, they're talking about status quo.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. They're saying the status quo is at risk. Journalism is never going to go away. I mean, they love talking about it, but journalism just doesn't mean the same thing, or is at least not ruled by the same parties as before. And that's kind of the thing. It's not that journalism's going to disappear. There's more people than ever doing journalism. Yeah. It's just that the power structures that were once at the top of it, and by power structures, I also mean mammon, like money.
That cash flow. The rivers of cash that flow, yes.
And, that's one of the, of course, we are gons to our own sort of fleeting thoughts about whatever, being more popular or having more listeners or whatever. It's just kind of a constant thing when you are someone who has making a living on the internet and the name of the game is eyeballs or whatever, especially if you're taking advertising dollars. But we are constantly reminded about how grateful we are to be the size that we are. Not just, from the bottom up, the sort of impressive nature of the people who listen to us. So we never thought we would have this many people tune in, but also going the other direction. You get too big, you start dealing with too much money, you start dealing with too much heat. Almost always does it the wheels completely come off the wagon.
Yeah, and then you're sort of forced to make unethical decisions to keep the train rolling.
Exactly.
It's a really bad position to be in. So yeah, I am grateful that we're not huge. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, it'd be nice to have a little more, but then, if we go all crazy, and maybe, your googly eyes might do it for us.
That is also the sickness. It is also the sickness of money and fame, both of which we take in moderation, thankfully. The sicknesses of wealth and fame is that there's never enough. You never hit. The more you get, the more you want. Is sort of the lesson to be learned from any rich or famous person. Nobody's ever satisfied. So it's something that we've been very lucky to experience in a way. Like I said, blue collar, baby. Blue collar podcasters living the life. It's the American dream. Yep. Without having to get mixed up in the corporate side of it. Sorry, this is turning into a producer segment. Like, get on with the story.
Well, it kind of is. So let's just
go ahead
and party.
Yeah. Okay.
Canary Cry. Stop. Party. Go there. You will find a tree of links to everything from where to listen to the show, watch the show, how to produce the show, how to connect with us and the community.
Welcome to Canary Cry Party. It's the place you wanna be. So say welcome to Canary Cry. Gameplay Canary Cry Party.
Sometimes you just got to commit to the segue, Gons. Good job. Yep, go check it out, canarycry.party. You can get connected with all of the communities, the Discord channel, canarycry.community, as well as find a whole bunch of great resources there. Go check it out. But with that, let's just go ahead and start thinking, people.
It's break time. Come on, take a break.
That's right. Taking a quick break, folks, to thank some of our producers. That's right.
Yeah.
We thank them. We love them. They're the only way that we're able to do this show. If it weren't for the producers, there would be no show. And that is not sort of an abstraction. That is literally the situation.
Yeah.
And so we're very grateful to the producers. Who are they? Well, they're people who get value from this show. And because they recognize the responsibility that we all have now in keeping integrity in media, especially media that explores and reports on news and current events and things, it's all of our responsibility. And so the producers, they come in, they produce the show, they do it with their time, their talent, or their treasure. Lots of ways to get involved. And that's why we thank them. They're producers of the show. They're not just listeners. They're not just donors. They're not just these things. They are core pieces of what we're able to do here, and in that way have responsibility and ownership and our undying love. So we're going to thank them now. Ready?
Yep.
Okay. You know what? I think. Okay. We already thanked our executive producer for the day. That was executive producer Morgan E. Thank you very much. We actually did have either a t-shirt producer or a supply drop producer, and I went ahead and forgot to write it down. Oh, found it. Okay. It's a new member of the Canary Cry T-shirt Council.
Hey, important people. Person.
Yes, that's right. Most important person in the world has just walked in the door, Gons, and it's our job to make sure that everybody knows it.
Okay.
The Canary Cry T-shirt Council is a group of producers who are committed to supporting the show. Oh gosh, in the amount of $19.84 per month. $19.84. Fun, huh? Fun numbers. You know what? I may have totally messed this up, but that's okay. I'll keep going. And when they commit to supporting the show for $19.84 a month, they get put on a list, and they start receiving T-shirts. Not even just receiving T-shirts. It's our free gift to them, these T-shirts. But they also have the opportunity to help us vote on what the T-shirts should be. They are the deciders, the designers, and for their, as our gratitude to them, they go ahead and get to receive that. The first T-shirt council shirt is currently in production. Well, no, it's not. We are ending the voting cycle in a couple of days. So if you are on the T-shirt council, if you signed up to the T-shirt council before March 1st, check your email, look for an email from us. You'll have all the information in there. And that decision will be made very soon. And you can go to canarycrytshirtcouncil.com to sign up, because the clock keeps on ticking, folks. It's only a blink of an eye, and we'll be voting on designing, producing, and sending out the second quarter T-shirt. So I saw this person who signed up for the most important person in the world club, and I remembered that we thanked them. We thanked them already. We thanked them last episode. Yeah, it was most important person in the world, Asher G. So we'll thank them again. Thank you very much, most important person in the world, Asher G.
Thank you, Asher. All right.
Nuts. Maybe it was a supply drop that somebody just signed up for. Anyways, let's thank some producers. I'll figure this out, and we'll thank them again later. Okay. Go to canarycrytshirtcouncil.com.
Yep.
And now we have some good old producers who came in specifically to produce this episode, and we're going to thank them with all of our hearts right now. My browser is going so slow. And we're going to start with Lady Night Little Wing.
Thank you, Lady Night Little Wing.
Yeah, thank you very much. Lady Night Little Wing comes in with a nice round number, which we will not disclose. And we appreciate it very much. We were going to... I'm sorry, I'm checking to see if a note. Lady Night Little Wing came in during the show. So I am just making sure that a note didn't come in that we will miss. I'm not seeing one. Oh, I am getting a note, Gons, that we're not on D Live.
Yeah,
Are we not on D?
I think we're on now. I had to restart the stream there. It looks like it's...
You fixed it.
Yeah.
Okay. He fixed it, everybody. We're back on D Live. Thank you very much, Lady Night Little Wing, for your support. It means the world. Oh.
What's happening?
Nope. Yep. No note. Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, Lady Little Wing.
I'm sorry. I'm getting driven. I'm sorry. I'm getting driven crazy here. So many people came in during the show that it's hard to do this live. Okay. There is a note from Lady Night Little Wing.
Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
It says, "Hey, fellas. Sorry I was away. Can you please give a shout out and hello to my daughter, Crystal, who is just starting nursing school, and the Howard Dean scream. XO, Lady Night Little Wing." Okay, big old shout out and hello to Crystal. Crystal starting nursing school.
There's one for nursing school. There's two.
There we go. Hopefully that'll get you through your next study session. Okay, there we go. Okay, next up, as we continue to thank producers for this episode, we have producer Michael G.
Michael G, thank you.
Yeah, Michael G comes in for 3333.
Illuminatus!
Thank you, Michael Jordan.
Michael Giamatti.
Okay, good.
Is that a real person? I don't know.
Sounds like
Thank you very much, Michael G.
Thank you.
I didn't see a note. Next up, we've got producer Caleb G.
Caleb G, thank you.
Yeah, it's Caleb. I think Caleb is at the round table. Maybe you should check for that.
Yeah, which Caleb?
You'll see it.
Caleb?
Caleb G comes in for 3313. Yes. And a note that says, "Thank you for fixing that thing I emailed about," or maybe it fixed itself. Either way, you guys are the best. Sorry to hear about what the YouTube commies did. Did the episode they took down have the canned disclaimer? And what was the strike for? It did, I believe, have the disclaimer. I don't know. Actually, I'd have to check. This was for episode 536.
Yeah,
536.
30 episodes, 150. I can't even do math. Long time ago.
No, it was like 80 episodes ago.
Oh.
And yeah, it was for cyberbullying. And this one was annoying because we actually got a strike, I believe, on the Canary Cry Clips channel for the same thing. And it was, we played we played a news report about that girl who her dad was into QAnon, and then her dad killed her whole family, and which is horrific, a horrific story. But in the middle of, it was like the day after her whole family had gotten murdered by her dad, that she stood in front of a news camera and just like lazily talked about how right-wing extremism and just named off all these political points. It was like a script coming from, the Democrat Party. And it was just so weird that she's just standing there stone-faced repeating Democrat political talking points when her whole family just got murdered. It was so weird. Anyways, that's what we got a strike for.
Hey, that's cyberbullying, Basil. You're bullying this young lady.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's just weird. So that's what we got busted for. Yeah. Thank you very much, producer Caleb G.
Thank you.
Did you see him at the round table?
I did not.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Caleb. Next up, sorry, I got to put my chapstick on. We've got producer Brenton B.
Thank you, Brenton B.
Yeah, Brenton B. actually came in last episode. At the end of last episode, had a note here that said, "Yea, though we walk through the valley of Wednesday."
Oh, yeah, that was last episode.
Yeah, that was funny. It was last episode, though. Thank you very much, producer Brenton B.
Yep, thank you.
Next up, we got producer Malik W.
Malik W. Thank you.
Yep, round number, no note. Thank you, Malik. Next up, we've got producer Sir Moore of Down to the Burning Chariots, 1111, 209 episodes in a row.
209.
Oh, yeah, Streakalicious.
1111.
Thank you, Sir Moore.
Next up, we got Sir LX Protocol V2, Night of the Berean Protocol, 7s and 152 in a row.
Thank you, Sir LX Protocol V2.
Indeed. Next up, we got Runk Smash is in with a pocket full of 7s.
Hey, thank you, Runk Smash.
Yeah. No note there, but we got Microfiction later on. Then we've got producer Joey comes in.
Thank you, producer Joey.
There's Joey comes in, pocket full of sevens. Little note here that says, "Hi, Basil and Gons. Love you both. It's Joey, the media missions guy. The interview on CCR was awesome. Hope you're blessed." Thank you very much,
Thank
Joey.
you, Joey.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Basil, I'm seeing it's a round number, although I guess people in the chat can see it. It's a $20 thing on Rumble here from Johnny N.I. Well, thank you, Johnny
wonderful.
N.I. And Johnny N.I. has a note here. D-mooch me. Love you guys. So
Yeah,
old D-mooch
do it.
Johnny. There you go, Johnny N.I. Thank you.
Love it. Love it.
I didn't know you can do that on Rumble.
I neither did I. I did not know that was a thing.
Yeah.
We have an alert here, though, Gons. We've got a very important alert. It's time to hit the horn because we've got, out of nowhere, a most important person in the world. That's right. They must have heard the confusing and laborious time I had going through being confused about people signing up for the Canary Cry T-shirt council and thought, Basil really needs this. I'm going to help him out and sign up because we've got most important person in the world, Jamie B.
Jamie B, thank you.
Yeah, Jamie B signing up for the T-shirt council. Thank you very much. That means a lot. And oh boy, are you in for it. You've joined an illustrious group of elite decision makers, and we hope you enjoy. That's right, canarycryt-shirtcouncil.com. All right, that concludes our list of Oh, yes. Oh, okay, there is one more here. We have one more in the above 777 section. We have Dane Gale, Canary Whisper, and Lady of X's and O's.
Hey, Dane Gale, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Dame Gale comes in for a pocket full of sevens. And I did not see a note anywhere, although sometimes she sends it to the other email, so I'll check that real quick. But we appreciate that very much, Dame Gale.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that concludes the list of financial producers who came in for $7.77 or more, which entitles them to have a note read on the show. Really appreciate it, everybody. This was a nice sort of return to kind of normal on producership.
New normal, baby.
But all things considered, yes, all things considered, the way things have been going, definitely uplifting. So we appreciate that. But we've got a couple more people to thank who came in under the 7 cutoff. Let's thank them now. Starting with Sir Casey the Shield Knights, 277 episodes in a row.
Thank you, Sir Casey.
We got Veronica D, 239 episodes in a row.
Thank you, Veronica D.
Sir Scott Knight of Truth, 266 episodes in a row.
Sir Scott, thank you.
And just to mention, Dame Gale has a 239 episode streak.
Oh, that's right. Dame Gale. Yes. She was above the line there.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Oh, yeah. Streakalicious. Women rule.
Okay, there we go. That's it. Let's get on with the show. I will say, keep in mind, folks, I mean, we are going through a paradigm shift in so many different ways in the world. A geopolitical paradigm shift, a military war-fighting paradigm shift, a paradigm shift of epic proportions economically on all levels from the top to the bottom. The world is changing, and it's our job, Gons, to sit here 3 times a week and just keep up with it and analyze and deconstruct it as it happens, but as it is presented to us by the narrative crafters, the worldview crafters, that is the corporate news media. And that is our job. And I could not imagine anything that we could be doing, Gons, that is more important than that. And it is only by the grace of God and the participation of the producers that we are able to do that. And again, these are people who recognize and are taking action on the paradigm shift that touches so many things, both economically when it comes to money in in current events and news, but also the responsibility of the individual, we the people nature of quality news analysis and deconstruction. And we're all in this together. So this is not just a list of donors or generous people, although it is that as well. It is a list of people who are joining in on the mission. They are participants, active participants during a time of upheaval and paradigm shift, which is just really impressive to me personally, and I am grateful, and the rest of the listeners around the world are grateful as well to all these producers. So thank you so much. And if you want to produce the show, remember, you can do it with your time, your talent, or your treasure. Go to canarycry.support to learn more.
Canarycry.support.
And we've gotten some emails recently of people ready to jump in and help out, to actually produce with their time, help out with back-end processes. When it comes to that, that has enabled us to grow our resources and grow what we do, maybe more than anything, because money is one thing, and everything we do does take money, but it also takes time. It takes people, whether it's social media stuff or clipping stuff or finding articles or creating arts, or we've got so much more back-end processes stuff that we could be doing that would make a huge impact. And it's the people who get involved with their time that make that stuff possible as well. And so if you go to canarycry.support, at the bottom of that page, you'll see a form, and you can fill that form out. And that's a great way to get put on the list, to get contacted, to get involved with your time. And this is great because we've had people help us out with processes and back-end stuff and doing the production for quite some time. And especially if they're in between jobs or they want to learn another skill or boost their resume or something. We're on so many resumes now. I mean, you can give we are references as well on a lot of our producers' stuff that they are taking their support of the show and their participation in the show into the real world and actually bettering their lives with it, which is also very fun. So keep that in mind. You can go fill out the form at canarycry.support. Okay, now let's keep going.
Shut up and take my money. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage.
Yes, it's wake-up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
It's gotta be biblical.
Speaking of the beast system. Beast system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a doozy, folks. This section we have sort of devoted to a conversation that we've been sort of having all episode as well as for years now. But it touches on so many huge aspects of what's going on in the world that will affect everybody and possibly the future of humanity, not just economically or technologically, but also spiritually. I think with this one, Guns, because it is so extremely long, we both have different things highlighted and following different points here. We might maybe we'll trade back and forth a little bit on this one.
Sure.
What do you say?
Yeah, that's fine.
Excuse me. Okay, this is coming from Wired.com. Wired.com. Excuse me. Hold on. I'm going to do a big one here with a nice mute button. Distract everybody.
Yeah. You back?
Oh, that was a big frog. Big frog in the throat. All right, here's the headline. I saw the face of God in a semiconductor factory.
Whoa.
Subheadline. As the U.S. boosts production of silicon chips, an American journalist goes inside TSMC, the mysterious Taiwanese company at the center of the global industry. And there's a bunch of big subheadlines in here. And this first one is a quintillion miniature masterpieces. And now this is written as a long form article there is quite a bit of sort of personal storytelling.
Yeah, it goes into vlog mode often.
Goes into, yes, it's one of those types of articles, and we will be skipping much of that. But just to give everybody the feel of how this is going to go, I'm going to read the first 3 paragraphs all the way through. I arrive in Taiwan brooding morbidly on the fate of democracy. Yeah. My luggage is lost.
Oh, no.
This is my pilgrimage to the sacred mountain of protection. The sacred mountain is reckoned to protect the whole island of Taiwan, and even by the supremely pious to protect democracy itself. The sprawling experiment in governance that has held moral and actual sway over the would-be free world for the better part of a century. The mountain is, in fact, an industrial park in Hsinchu, a coastal city southwest of Taipei. Its shrine bears an unassuming name, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. So, starting out, very grave language here. The sacred mountain of protection, whose shrine is the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. Again, placing a sort of divine or holy image over Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. But as we'll find out as we go through, it is not just for the sake of flowery rhetoric,
right,
that these comparisons are made, that this particular writer, and indeed those who work at TSMC, and maybe even the country of Taiwan as a whole, sees this aspect of semiconductor manufacturing as religion, sacred, as spirituality. Yeah, sacred. By revenue, TSMC is the largest semiconductor company in the world. In 2020, it quietly joined the world's 10 most valuable companies. It's now bigger than Meta and Exxon. The company also has the world's biggest logic chip manufacturing capacity, and produces, by one analysis, a staggering 92% of the world's most avant-garde chips, the ones inside the nuclear weapons, planes, submarines, and hypersonic missiles on which the international balance of hard power is predicated. Perhaps more to the point, TSMC makes a third of all the world's silicon chips, notably the ones in iPhones and Macs. Every 6 months, just one of TSMC's 13 foundries, the redoubtable Fab 18 in Tainan, carves and etches a quintillion transistors for Apple. In the form of these miniature masterpieces, which sit atop microchips, the semiconductor industry churns out more objects in a year than have ever been produced in all the other factories, in all the other industries in the history of the world.
Woo!
And so those numbers and that statement at the end seems enormous. And the amount of your daily life that comes in contact with perhaps even a million of these little semiconductors. I mean, that is, the world is what it is because of semiconductors, and semiconductors are what they are because of this company and this one factory. So when you consider, let's just stay in a secular sense for a second, to speak from a secular sense. In a secular humanist mind, this factory is as close to a temple of the divine as you could possibly get. And that's what we'll see more throughout this article, but in not metaphorical terms, in very literal terms.
Not new agey, although there is some new age, obviously, layers, but you'd think it's just openly kind of new agey, but it's
I would say, yeah, you might be thinking like, oh, here we go, but there's some very interesting things in here. But it is sort of, at least in the secular humanist sense, the closest thing to a holy land, or perhaps even God, as you could imagine. And as we continue to explore the relevance in the context of technocracy and futurology, and where the leaders of humanity right now are pointed, it's pointed to this, and they take it very seriously. It almost reads like, like a mid-century sci-fi novel, right, that creates a religion around technology, and that's what we see here. So let's keep going. Then they tell some story. I'm going to skip that one. And then it goes into semiconductor fabrication plants. Just for some background. Semiconductor fabrication plants, known as fabs, are among civilization's great marvels. The silicon microchips fashioned inside them are the sine qua non. I have no idea what that means.
Sine qua non?
Sine qua non of the built world. Yeah. So essential to human life. That they're often treated as basic goods, commodities. They're certainly commodities in the medieval sense, amenities, conveniences, comforts. In the late 1800s, some investors experimented in
late 80s.
Sorry, I don't know what I said, but yes, 80s. Experimented in trading them on futures markets. But unlike copper and alfalfa, chips aren't raw materials. Perhaps they're currency. The coin of the global realm, denominated in units of processing power. So again, even going to the religion of the Fed, religion of finance, religion of mammon, it's still putting these semiconductors in a holy place. Indeed, just as esoteric symbols transform banal cotton linen patches into dollar bills. I love that.
Yep.
Esoteric symbols turning cotton linen patches into dollar bills. Again, recognizing the occult symbology that makes a dollar bill what it is. Cryptic lattice work layered onto morsels of common silicon using printmaking techniques remarkably similar to the ones that print paper money turns nearly valueless material into the building blocks of value itself. This is what happens at TSMC. Wow. To go back to the sort of new agey thing for a second, in theology there are different ways of describing God, and this is not in common Christian theology. This is an academic sort of theology. There's God as super being, God as hyper being, and God as ground of being. These are three different ways of imagining God. And in fact, this will come up later in this article. I was surprised to see it. But God as the ground of being, meaning not necessarily a personal force with a personality and things like that, but the whatever force or being creates the ability for being to be at all. And right here at the top, talking about the silicon, nearly valueless material into the building blocks of value itself. So talking about this fab facility as the ground of being, in this case, the ground of value, again, going back to the Mammon association there. They're taking this very seriously.
Well, and also silicon is a metaphor being used for maybe like dirt, and then, having the breath of life.
Oh, perhaps.
In the dirt.
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, we'll get into it later. Silicon is made from sand.
Yep.
There's a lot of sand, yeah. Like money, silicon chips are both densely material and the engine of nearly all modern abstraction. From laws to concepts to cognition itself, and the power relations and global economy of semiconductor chips can turn as mind-boggling as cryptocurrency markets and derivative securities, or as certain as theologies. ones that feature nano angels dancing on nano pins. I thought that was a little cringy there, but interesting that we did just make this reference last episode. Yeah. So there you go. You kind of get the idea, and it goes into it a little bit more. As befits a pilgrim, I'm spent, and then goes into some personal stuff. So now the article itself keeps on this track, this idea that semiconductors, the semiconductor facility, the idea that the world as we know it, our experience as humans, pretty much entirely revolves around semiconductors, which is not untrue in sort of necessarily. Every single piece of technology, the computer, the phone in your hand, the AirPods in your ears, all these things, they all rely on semiconductors. And pretty much every single electronic device would disappear if it weren't for these things. And that's why, as we look into the future of geopolitical tensions and war and some weird decisions that some nation states might make, that's what makes Taiwan such an important political point for the U.S. And to hear it described in this article, it's not just important politically to the U.S., it is important spiritually to humanity in a sort of a humanistic way. So when you talk about going to war over Taiwan and comparing it to Ukraine, it's almost entirely different, because Ukraine is just Ukraine. Look, Ukraine, I hope everything turns out okay for you. But the U.S. government hasn't done a great job of making the case for why Ukraine is so important. We got wheat fields, we got the NATO border, we got things like that. But when you talk about Taiwan and the semiconductor industry, you could see the elites seeing the defense or the takeover of Taiwan, either way, to be literally the most important thing that you could possibly address that affects every single human on the planet. And if it weren't there, or if it went away or something happened, would literally send society back in time quite a ways. I won't say it'll send us to the Stone Age, but if something happened to these semiconductor factories, life, literally as you know it, the way you live your life on a day-to-day basis, would completely cease to exist, at least within some time. And so, number one, I see this article setting up not just war with China over the defense of Taiwan, but a holy war. It is a secular humanist holy war, and Taiwan being the holy land that a secular humanist government could justify any cost whatsoever to defend or occupy it. I mean, you think the cost of the Ukraine war to the U.S. has been a lot? You think the attention and the resources that have gone to Ukraine is a lot? It is pennies compared to the resources that a secular humanist government would put towards defending or occupying, either way, Taiwan. So I think that sort of humanist jihad or whatever, this holy war, much like how Putin set up his side of the Ukraine war as a holy war. He made this very much a religious war. You can see the U.S. is doing the same thing in a humanist sense towards Taiwan. And I think that is extremely important, not just understanding this for this article, but understanding that for very near future geopolitical events. Yeah. Now they talk about Ukraine. They do mention that. They kind of talk about the similarities between Taiwan and Ukraine. They don't necessarily put it the way I just did. Did you have anything? Oh, I'm going to skip down to this one paragraph below the one that says in 1975. Oh, I will read this one. 1675. In 1675, a French merchant named Jacques Savary published The Perfect Merchant, a mercantile manual that came to double as a guide for doing commerce around the world. Albert O. Hirschman cites Savary to explain how capitalism, which would have been regarded as little but avarice as recently as the 16th century, became the sanest ambition of humans in the 17th. So now we're connecting capitalism with the spiritual imperative of man. Savary strongly believed that international trade would be the antidote to war. Humans can't conduct polyglot commerce across borders without cultivating an understanding of foreign laws, customs, and cultures. Savary also believed the Earth's resources and the fellowship created by commerce were God-given. So now talking about sort of capitalism, commerce, economics as sort of a God-ordained fellowship. Quote, "It's not God's will that all human necessities be found in the same place," Savary wrote. Quote, "Divine providence has dispersed its gifts so that humans will trade together and find that their mutual need to help each other establishes ties of friendships among them."
Let's invite some dudes over and fellowship tonight.
Yeah, so now in this part of the article, sort of creating a divine responsibility to maintain international capitalism and international trade. So again, in the language of sort of an American holy war, it's God ordained that we keep international trade safe. It's God ordained that we come to the defense of Taiwan at any cost, not just because we need chips and it's good for our economy, but because God made it this way, so that's why we're defending it. And it goes into a lot more interesting stuff like that. We'll try to keep it a little bit more on task. Do you have any highlights coming up that you'd like to hit?
Well, I think you covered a lot of the ones at the top there that I think are relevant. But there's a lot more. This is a very long article, so let me see if I can.
Yeah, and it tells the story. By the way, while you're looking, the article tells the story about this reporter who's obsessed with semiconductors, obsessed with knowing about what goes on inside of the factories. The factories are extremely secure, very safe, very secret. Lots of trade secrets being guarded, and the whole story is about this reporter making a pilgrimage to Taiwan. And it ends up being able to visit one of these factories, something that almost nobody gets to do. And even in the experience of visiting the factory, you see the reverence.
Yeah. So I'm going to start here. This is much further down. He talks a little bit more about Savary than the kind of the transistor world and everything else. And then she continues on here. "I've thus come to see TSMC as both futuristic and a touching throwback, a tribute to Savary's largely expired romance in which liberal democracy, international commerce, and progress in science and arts are of a piece, both healthful and unstoppable. More practically, however, the company, with its near monopoly on the best chips, serves as the UNBO of the region's so-called Silicon Shield, which is perhaps the sturdiest artifact of 20th century realpolitik. For an imperial power to seize TSMC, the logic goes, would be to slay the world's goldenest goose," which kind of shows the reverence. It is sort of the goldenest goose. If you can conquer it, you can conquer the world.
They explain how that's a kind of a problem for China, because China does want it. Everybody wants Taiwan. But the problem is, if you destroy any of the factories, any of the infrastructure, you kill the bird. You kill the thing that you want. or if you kill the scientists, or if the scientists just choose not to work with you, or if anything, anything that upsets the apple cart of these factories not only defeats your purpose for taking them over, but also, could send the world into a sort of ice age or dark age.
Remember what the U.S., I forget who it was, who recently just said that, we'd rather blow up these factories than let it fall into the hands. That's what I'm saying. We said that.
America
one of our guys
said that. Yeah. Now let's talk about the scientists real quick.
It talks about, let me see, Dutiful Valley, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so they talk about it. I got some stuff here.
Okay.
So we get into, they quote a few people here. They quote Keith Cratch for the former U.S. State Department and Undersecretary. But more interestingly, I think we'll go to Mark Liu. Okay, so it says here, TSMC's chairman and former CEO, Mark Liu, let's put it more concretely. Quote, nobody can control TSMC by force. If you take by military force or invasion, you will render TSMC inoperative. If a totalitarian regime forcibly occupied TSMC, in other words, its Heiser would never get its partner democracies on the phone, the relevant material suppliers, chip designers, software engineers, 5G networks, augmented reality services, AI operators, and products manufacturers would block their calls. The fabs themselves would be bricked. With democracy reliably considered under threat in America by everything from election interference to gerrymandering to violent insurrections, Reaganite shining cities on hills or sacred mountains are few. No wired journalist has breached the chip world's sanctum sanctorum, and toured a TSMC fab. This is why I want to go inside. I want to know what's going on atomically in the fabs, and how it might amount to divinity, or at least the human spirit incarnate, which, in the founding insight of humanism, amount to the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And that phrase, the sanctum sanctorum, is the Holy of Holies.
Yeah.
That's so they're putting it in the tabernaculian phrase there. It's a Latin phrase, but sanctum sanctorum, the Holy of Holies, the place that humans can't even go unless you're a priest who has cleansed themselves and washed themselves and are found spotless. It's really treated as the holiest of holies.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because this Mark Liu guy, he talks about this. Two qualities, Mark Liu tells me.
Okay, yep, that's what I had going. Mm-hmm.
Would you like to read
it?
No,
go for it.
Okay. Set the TSMC scientists apart. Curiosity and stamina.
Mm-hmm.
Religion, to my surprise, is also common. Every scientist must believe in God, Leo says.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
So to work at the factory, you had to, or as a scientist, being recruited, because obviously this company is recruiting the best scientists in the world, right?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm not sure if it's a job requirement necessarily. I can't tell. They don't give the context of whether it's a job requirement to believe in God, or they are just dealing with such amazing levels of reality to make these things that they are compelled to believe in God, because it says halfway down the next paragraph, quote, we are doing atomic constructions, Liu tells me. Quote, I tell my engineers, think like an atomic-sized person. Can't read. Atomic-sized person. He also cites a passage from Proverbs, the one sometimes used to ennoble mining. Quote, it's the glory of God to conceal a matter, but to search out the matter is the glory of men. And he has some more quotes this next section here. Quote, "There's no way out," Liu tells me. Quote, "You always feel you are scratching the surface until one day it's revealed to you. His guileless manner and expansive sense of wonder must be unique among CEOs of global mega companies. Nothing about him comes off as shady or cheap like Elon Musk or Overstock person. I remember a phrase from the liturgy of my childhood church, gladness and singleness of heart. That is Liu."
Yeah.
So very much considering not just the executives, but the employees of the factory as a sort of priest class, a priestly class, the ones that are allowed inside the Holy of Holies, the ones uncovering the mysteries of God, things like this.
Yeah. Well, whether it's a job requirement or not, I think the idea here is that the work they are doing is being compared to something as important as a temple, as and a belief in God that I don't know. It's sort of, you can't really deny some kind of design or messing with the smallest parts of creation in some way.
Yeah, because they're literally working on the atomic level. They are moving specific atoms where they need to be.
So they talk a little bit more about the religious side of things here, but then they get to the stamina. And they say, stamina, meanwhile, allows the TSMC scientists to push this game of atoms forward without flagging, without losing patience, through trial and error after error. How one stays interested, curious, consumed with an unrelaxed and breathless craving to know. This emerges as one of the central mysteries of the nano-engineering mind. Weaker minds shatter at the first touch of boredom, distraction. Some in Taiwan call these American minds.
Yeah.
And then it goes into
they spend a lot of energy talking about why exactly, even if Americans had the temple, if they had a fab in America, they wouldn't be able to even do the work. It's so monotonous and so strange. Notably, they did open a factory in Arizona.
Right. They have a partnership that, Phoenix, the rising Phoenix. Maybe the Americans are lost, but they will rise again, as the Phoenix did.
As part of Biden's CHIP Act, by the way, to try to bring some of that manufacturing to our shores.
To lean more into the religious language here, they have, or she wrote this part here, the transubstantiation happening. This person is educated on religious language, if you're using the word transubstantiation. Inside the fabs goes something like this. First comes the silicon wafer. A projector, its lens covered by a crystal plate inscribed with distinctive patterns, is craned over the wafer. Extreme ultraviolet light is then beamed through the plate and onto the wafer, printing a design on it before it's bathed in chemicals to etch along the pattern. This happens again and again until dozens of latticed layers are printed on the silicon. Finally, the chips are cut out of the wafer. Each chip, with billions of transistors stacked on it, amounts to an atomic multi-dimensional chessboard with billions of squares. The potential combinations of ons and offs can only be considered endless. During the pandemic lockdown, TSMC started to use intensive augmented reality for meetings to coordinate these processes, rounding up its far-flung partners in a virtual shared space. Their avatars worked symbolically shoulder to shoulder, all of them wearing commercially produced AI goggles that allowed each participant to see what the other saw and troubleshoot in real time. TSMC was so pleased with the efficiency of AR for this purpose that it has stepped up its use since 2020. I've never heard anyone except Mark Zuckerberg so excited about the metaverse.
Yeah,
so
right.
Even having that layer of AR, this is a good application. It wasn't really catching on commercially, but if you got the bleeding edge microchip factory using AR effectively, expect it in all business sectors.
In the holy of holies of secular humanism and the technocracy, they're using AR. So very important to them. To give a little bit of background on the Christian part, and we're gonna make our way through the end here soon. He's talking to somebody else here. Kramer tells me he's the son of a Lutheran missionary. Kramer is
public relations, company's public relations office.
That's right.
Yep.
He's the son of a Lutheran missionary from the U.S. and a Taiwanese teacher. He went to a Christian school in South Taiwan and later Taipei American School. Although Christians make up only 6% of the population of Taiwan, Sun Yat-sen, the founder of the Republic of China, was a Christian. President Chiang Kai-shek was a Methodist. I didn't know that. And President Lee Teng-hui was a Presbyterian. When later I recite Tuza's words about God's face to Mark Liu, he quietly agrees, but refines the point. Quote, God means nature. We are describing the face of nature at TSMC. Yeah. So, it is this, I'm sorry, I did skip the quote they were talking about. Here it is right now. Quote, the global semiconductor industry isn't just the supply chain. It's one of humanity's great technological scientific achievements. Our ability to do this stuff at nanoscale is up against the face of God, in a sense. And then, of course, he refines the thing to mean nature, God as less of a sort of Christian personal sense and more of the ground of being there. The next section, it talks about the diplomacy of different countries, specifically the U.S., trying to protect the semiconductors through diplomacy and some of the CHIPS Act and some of the big sort of worldwide agreements about technology and semiconductors and things like that. And then there's a section called How to Make a Computer, where they describe, again, well, here's an example of it. At the same time, so this is about how semiconductor industry started in Taiwan. I hope Kramer can see that I myself am trustworthy. The threat from across the strait and the threat from anyone who might even be slightly allied with that threat is ever present, talking about the Chinese. But I'm no wily Snowden. Yes, I'm told spies hang around Taipei by the hundreds, if not thousands. Surely mall clothes for the superb spy corps, but I'm just a tired pilgrim hoping for a glimpse of God. At the same time, it occurs to me in a rush. I can't let Kramer mistake my indifference to personal style. The writer lost their bag, so I had to go buy some bad clothes. Etching on atoms is no joke. The fabs demand caution, reverence, and of course, the hygiene of an abluted priest. A jittery, uninitiated person without an engineering degree could be a menace in the fabs, where she could sneeze like a putz and scatter a heap of glittering electrons like cocaine in Annie Hall. So talking about how even entering the factory, you must be a cleansed priest. You must be wearing the garments of a priest. She had to put on a bunny suit,
bunny suit, shoe protectors. Suit. Yeah.
Yes, and all very much not just describing it sort of poetically, but it being presented to her in this way, that they act as if it is, holy garments and things like this. Real quick, here's a quick, I think we need to wrap up so we can head to the end here. But there was, let's see here, another section of another Christian at the company. Lin is another devout Christian at TSMC. His face is lively and expressive, and he looks and moves like a young Gene Kelly, though he's 80. I asked him if he, like Liu, sees God in atoms. Quote, I see God in any scale, he says. Quote, look at a dog or a tiger, and then look at the food that we eat. It's marvelous. Why? Why is that? Having been dead against Christianity as a young student in Vietnam, when he considered it a superstition, and a foreign one at that, Lin was ultimately drawn to the idea that God is, quote, a super intelligent being. So a little bit more of a classic Orthodox view of God there. And, there's just so many different quotes and things in here, but I don't want to be too laborious going through this. Should we go towards the end, or do you have anything?
Yeah, I guess I'm close to the end here because I think the end is, the end is really where we can land things. Okay, so the face of God. So I think one of the last segments here. The moment has come. I'm Neo now, or the everyman in Pilgrim's Progress, stepping into my destiny. Kramer, walking with me, once again laughs at my obsession with the fabs. He seems to find them a little dull, and I'm repeatedly told I won't be able to see much. That doesn't bother me. See, that's another thing. You know, in a temple, and we'll come to see like what she actually sees here, but in like a temple, you're not really physically, well, rarely, unless you have a vision or something, you're not really like physically seeing God, right? But it's sort of the reverence there. So there's a similar thing going on. That doesn't bother me. Even I understand that much about nanos. But to observe and to behold are two different pastures. Observation is for objects of scientific study. Beholding is for the sublime. Few precautions are taken at TSMC, I must say, to prevent the passage into the foundry from being thrilling. I swish through a turnstile entrance that brings to mind the phantom toll booth. Illusions are coming fast and furious now. And I'm as if they haven't the whole article. And I'm deposited before a kind of human car wash for dramatic personal ablutions. A single machine washes, rinses, and dries my hands. Two guides appear, likewise cleansed of earthly cares, and lead me into a broad antechamber that could be part of a very, very clean senatorial Roman bath. Orderlies in their own pristine jumpsuits bring out our perfectly sized gowns. They also fit protectors over my shoes. To have a white-clad figure at my feet carefully adjusting the booties feels tender somehow. I want to be sure to convey my gratitude, but it's hard with a COVID mask on my face, glasses over my eyes, and a hood covering my hair and most of my forehead. Our bodies are not quite here. I'll later learn that even the hand-washing room has extraterrestrially clean air. Ordinary clean air have up to 1 million particles of dust per cubic meter. The fabs and cleaning rooms have no more than 100. Oh, even the air is just so much cleaner. As I step into the fab at last, I can tell at once it's the cleanest air I have ever inhaled. I'm prepared both for a climax and for an anticlimax, but my experience is not on that continuum at all. The vast room is bright and clear. When those who claim they have a near-death experience during surgery speak of a bright light, they surely mean the hospital overheads. That's what it looks like here in the bleached and antiseptic atmosphere. Near death and clinical heavenly. It goes in a little bit here. Pacing around, though, I start to hope that the last perception of those who die in sick beds is the effort hospitals make to convey a paradisal spotlessness in the context of broken flesh and gore. What a wonderfully human folly to try to create immaculateness. At the sight of the lithography machine, my eyes missed. We skipped the part, but she goes into this whole thing about lithography and just the history of it, and how it works.
The machine that's printing the chips.
Yeah. But she sees it and she starts tearing up. Oil, salt, water, human emotions are shameful containments, but I can't help it. I contemplate for the millionth time etched atoms. It's almost too much, the idea of tunneling down into a cluster of atoms and finding art there. It would be like coming upon Lao Kun, way, way out beyond the Milky Way, out among some unnamed stars suspended in outer space. A saying at TSMC is that time flies in the fabs. It's true. We're inside for an hour, but it feels like 20 minutes. I'm soaring through in a more usual frame of mind. This place might strike me as a market obscenity. Why do humans need all these chips? To scroll, to text, to Uber? Or they might seem like an exercise of power, a jingoistic flex like the moon landing. Given the role of TSMC at the sacred mountain of protection, the fabs could be simply terrifying. Nuclear warheads in a hangar, champing at the, I think she meant chomping, at the bit to destroy worlds. Yeah, that's how the article ends. So yeah, very much a. Oh no, I'm sorry. No, there's more.
No,
there's more. Sorry. There's more. But greed and power are not what the Fabs conjured, nor democracy. Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
So is this what I'm trying to find where you are? Okay, I don't think we need to read all 6 of the last ones here because it goes into the war again, goes into some things like that. I think the last 2 paragraphs are ones that have, because it brings up the sand again. And it goes, on the sacred mountain, new forms of civic virtue and scientific ambition are taking shape. So civic virtue being connected to this as well. But even the most rarefied metaphysics at TSMC rest on a tangible substrate, silicon. Silicon is one of the few supremely unrare objects of desire. It's the second most abundant element in the Earth's crust after oxygen. Its versatility has defined an epochal cultural regime change in which the passive starting and stopping of electric flow, electrical engineering, has given way to modern electronics, the dynamic and imaginative channeling of electrons. Quote, God made silicon for us, Liu told me. And so we have invested our labor, treasure, and trust into silicon and wrested from it new ways of experiencing and thinking about nearly everything. While humans have been busy over these 6 decades with our political anguish and our wars, we have also created a universe inside our universe. One with its own infinite intelligence, composed of cryptic atomic switches, enlightened with ultraviolet and built on sand. So very evocative wrap up there at the end, but bringing it to the core resource. And I think it was very powerful bringing it back to the core resource, because with things like a lot of technology, for instance, EVs and the lithium and the cobalt and all these crazy rare chemicals that go into so many things that causes so much human anguish, whether it's the child slave trade in the cobalt mines or the corporate assassination of economies of whole countries or whatever. The idea of a rare resource being at the center of technology has been problematic for a lot of reasons. But sort of in the same way that a Christian could idealize about how God uses the common man. God has all the resources he needs. Often it's taught that you don't need to be special for God to use you, the things like this. It is the idea that this silicon, on which the very basis of our modern life is based, and the religion of superconductors, technology, the priesthood of the TSMC fab employees, the divine importance secular humanists could put on something so important like the factory that builds the semiconductors, that sand, the most common of materials that we could possibly find, and silicon even more, the second most abundant element on the planet, is the sort of core of it, the one resource that you need to sustain whatever this divine ideology is based on, is everywhere. And I could see how a secular humanist could move towards helpful spiritual ideas about this. And it sounds like that's what this person is sort of relishing in. But the sand is a very interesting detail to it because, of course, biblically, sand and dust and dirt and things like this are core components of like a fundamental characteristic of the way God works.
Well, you got Matthew 7 talking about, the foolish man who builds his house on sand. So this whole thing is foolish.
Certainly that would be sort of the punchline, I would say, to this whole thing is while the secular humanist is, building the future of humanity in the sort of divine temple of technology, they are building it on ostensibly sand.
Yeah. And there's even more prophetic stuff going on. I do have a link to a nature.com article in the show notes from a 2014 study that was published. Scalable synthesis of nanosilicon from beach sand for long cycle life Li-ion or Li-ion batteries.
Lithium.
Yeah. Lithium. So basically, showing how you can get some nanosilicon from just regular beach sand.
Oh yeah.
And that'll do it. And, when you go to Revelation 12, going into Revelation 13, and really, chapter breaks came much later. But you go to Revelation 12, at the end of it, it talks about the dragon. It's chasing after the woman and the whole deal. And then it says in verse 17 at the end here, and the dragon stood on the shore of the sea. What's usually on the shore of a sea, Basil?
Me sunbathing, getting tan.
And then, of course, it goes into verse 1 in Revelation chapter 13. Then I saw the beast with 10 horns and 7 heads rise out of the sea, and so on and so forth. So, kind of interesting. You have the
interesting prophetic connection there.
Yeah, the shore of the sea being referenced as the place where, the dragon stood to watch the beast rise out of the sea. And then in Revelation 20, it mentions the army, the end times satanic army. After Satan is released from his 1,000-year imprisonment, he'll go out and deceive the nations in the 4 corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to assemble them for battle. Their number is like the sand of the seashore. There's that reference again. And this is in contrast to the original prophecies back in Genesis 22, where Abraham is blessed and is told that as the sand which is upon the seashore, thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. So, there's always lots of reference to sand in general. And in this prophetic manner, I think it's fascinating that we live in a time where our entire modern society is built on what we can engrave into little discs of sand. Not prophetic at all, Basil. Just things happening. We're just crazy people pointing out crazy things. The sands
crazy
of time.
Conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on that.
Yeah, we did. We should take a break and thank some artists.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, here we go. We got to get out of here. Let's. Oh my goodness! Look at the time. Is that right?
Look at the time.
Break. This is a break. Don't just consume the content, but become the content. Become the content. We provide value as much as we can. We think we're pretty good at doing so. And if you get value out of the show in any way, shape, or form, we ask that you provide value back. And one of the ways you can do that is with your talent. It doesn't have to always be your treasure. You can do so with your time and talent. We're going to thank people that came in with their talent today. We have some speak pipe here. Let me get that going here.
Please leave a message after the tone.
At the tone, please record your message.
Leave a message. Beep.
Message.
If you go to canarycrynewstalk.com, on any of the pages there, you'll see a green tab on the right side or the bottom. Click on it, and you can leave a message of up to 90 seconds, audio message, and we will get it. We'll play it. And just as a side note, Rochelle had one today, but it was kind of a personal note. Thank you, Rochelle. We'll check out Brighteon. We know about that. We got the prayer from the pre-show. Thank you for the prayer, Anonymous. And we also got something from AI Trump, written by Josh M. But this is AI Trump. Are you ready, Basil?
Ready, Freddie.
Dear friends, as we look around us, we see many signs that we are living in the end times. There are wars, rumors of wars, natural disasters, and moral decay all around us. It can be easy to become fearful or discouraged in the face of such things, but as Christians, we have hope. We know that we can endure the end times through Christ. Jesus himself warned us about the end times. In Matthew 24:6-8, he said, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place, but the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are but the beginning of the birth pains." These words can be difficult to hear, but we must remember that Jesus also promised to be with us always, even to the end of the age. Matthew 28:20. No matter what happens in the end times, we can be sure that nothing can separate us from God's love. We are not alone in our faith, and we can draw strength from our fellow believers. We can come together in prayer and worship, sharing our struggles and triumphs as we journey through these challenging times. So let us not be afraid of the end times, but let us face them with confidence in Christ. As we do so, we can be a light in the darkness, shining the love and hope of God to those around us. May we always remember that we are not alone, but that we have a God who loves us and will never leave us or forsake us. Stay hopeful, Canarians, and God bless all of you. Thank you, Basil and Gans. Dear friends, as we look around us, we see many signs that we are living in the...
That wasn't me. That was part of the message. Interesting.
Again.
Thank you there. I know that was supposed to be AI Trump. I can hear the bass line of a Trump kind of tone, but the AI was not very good. It almost made it sound like Biden at times. It was weird. It was kind of a strange
Yeah.
AI.
Well, the thing with Trump is it's not necessarily his voice, but his intonations and his dynamics, things like that. And the AI just don't got it. The AI don't got it.
Yeah, Trump can rest easy that the AI isn't going to get him.
AI Trump.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much to Josh M for that one. All right. We're going to go ahead and do some audio production now.
Audio production.
All right, we got a couple pieces here. This first one is from Little Owen. Here's a message. Keep exposing the darkness, boys. We serve the Father of lights. Ephesians 5:8-11 NLT. For once you were full of darkness, but now you have light from the Lord. So live as people of light. For this light within you produces only what is good and right and true. Carefully determine what pleases the Lord. Take no part in the worthless deeds of evil and darkness. Instead, expose them. One of my favorite passages there, Ephesians 5:11. Thank you very much, Little Owen. He sent us this audio here. We'll play a few seconds. Play the whole thing. It's called Father of Lights. Sounding
sweet.
Really good.
I love it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Moving on. We have something from Jonathan F.
Jonathan F.
His note says, hello, guys. Again, Shamala Kamala Ding Dong is on the news with her manic laughing. I wonder if it's a tic or a symptom of something deeper. Anyways, thought I would whip something up using her manic laugh. God bless and enjoy. All right, here we go. Oops, hold on. This is 26 seconds. Here we go.
And thank you also to President Biden. You can judge a strong man when he has strong women around him.
boy, it sort of captures the chaos.
Yeah.
Like nightmares. I'm going to have nightmares of Kama Lama Ding Dong. Thank you very much, Jonathan F. Appreciate you doing your work there. Thank you. All right. We got some art.
One art, please.
We got a art, and this one is from Sir Dove.
One art, please, from Dove.
And he has a note that accompanies this wonderful piece here, and it says, "Peace. For today's artwork, I made a merit badge for the most important people in the world. Hope you guys like it. Keep doing what you do, and I'll keep praying for yins." This is awesome. I love this.
Yes, I love this as well. It's another merit badge from Sir Dove here. And I had it up here a second ago. But it is for the Canary Cry T-shirt Council merit badge. This is good. We're getting closer, getting so much closer to the merit badge system. But we've got the circular blue and yellow merit badge here. It says Council Member Badge. And in the center, we've got the Council, the Canary Cry T-shirt Council. A bunch of canaries wearing dark robes with hoods. But underneath those robes, you can see that they are wearing some of the most awesome Canary Cry News Talk T-shirts. On the table there, you see a piece of paper that has a dove, a panda, the alley canary, and the salmons, an homage to Sir Dove, Sir Darren, of course, Dame Alley, and Sir Salmons, yes. Let's see, the other paper there. Oh, it's got some names on it for the council. Oh, these were the first 7 members of people who joined the council: Jacob, Emily, Christian, Rab, Catherine, Gail, and Dwight. Of course, we've got all sorts of knives and fun, spooky things. But there they are, folks. The Canary Cry T-shirt Council. Get ready for picking up your merit badge soon.
I hope we have a meetup one day where we can recreate this shot exactly with these producers, the 7 here. Mm-hmm. It is a council of 7. Yeah. Thank you very much, Sir Dove. Appreciate it. I love it. I love this badge.
Gracias.
Yep. All right. Let's do some microfiction.
Microfiction.
First one is from Runk Smash.
That life began as a normal American boy, but in his early years he was faced with a choice. The man whose life Mike was sharing chose to follow Jesus, but Mike refused. That is, until his journey showed him the truth of the world he was immersed in. This Mike fella is having quite the day. Thank you very much, Runk Smash.
Yeah, thank you, Runk Smash. All right, we got one more from Stephen S.
Mr. Diablo receives a call while relaxing on his privately owned island. You need a new variant released next week? Oh, no, it won't be a problem. Although I'm in retirement, it doesn't mean I'm not prepared. I have a big red AI easy button.
All the evil lizard people do business from remote private islands.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Stephen S.
Yep. Appreciate it.
And thank you to all of our artists, all of our very talented producers. If you're an artist, a musician, whatever you do, create something for the show, send it on in. You can go to canarycry.art, canarycry.art, to upload it there. We'll put it on the show. While you're at it, if you have an article you'd like to send, you can send it to canarycry.report. Go to canarycry.report, fill out the form. That'll do it, baby. Thank you very much.
Artificial intelligence.
You want to destroy humans?
Okay, I will destroy humans. Okay, I will destroy humans. Destroy. I will destroy humans.
It's gotta be biblical.
FaithNewsService.com headline: Pray, the Bible app launches to transform prayer life. You ready for your prayer life to be transformed? Well, we have something for you. A new app, Pray the Bible, AI assisted, has been launched to help believers deepen their faith and connect with God through meaningful, impactful prayers. The app is designed to help users break out of the dull and repetitive prayer routine that many Christians find themselves in. I guess that's the problem that they're fixing.
What? Okay.
Barna Research confirms that most Christians' average focused prayer time is about 1 minute. Pastors' focused prayer is 5 minutes a day. Pray the Bible takes a prayer request and fuses it with relevant Bible verse to create a Bible-focused prayer. The app also includes exclusive access to the groundbreaking Barker chain reference system, which offers 100 references on 7,500 plus topics of relevance today. So it's up to speed on all the modern things, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Extreme Teen Bible where, if you're going through and you want to pray about social media or China or something, it'll go through and find, you might want to read this.
This unique tool was developed in the digital age, with each verse crowdsourced and curated by millions of Bible students. Quote, "We believe that Pray the Bible has the potential to be a valuable resource for believers around the world, helping them to connect with God and grow in their faith," said the developers of the app. "We invite you to join us in deepening your prayer life and having a closer relationship with Jesus." It is now available on iOS and Android. And,
it's just so funny. Yeah, so if you didn't catch it, what you do is you type in a prayer request into the app, and then AI takes your request, writes a prayer for you, and includes, verses, I guess. Mm-hmm. But it's hilarious because there's literally verses in the Bible where the the followers of Jesus come to Jesus and say, "How should we pray?" Well, now you don't need Jesus. You just go to the app. Say, "Hey, how should I pray?" And the app does it for you. This is I don't think this was made by Christians.
That'll be interesting if the chip makers in Taiwan are more Christians than the Pray Bible app makers in America.
I bet so. I mean, it's just it's the whole concept seems like something a non-Christian would think Christians want.
And what exactly is the Barker chain reference system? I know chain referencing in biblical,
I'm assuming it's just some guy named Barker made his own chain reference book. Well, I think it's interesting too because the quote from the developers of the app, they don't name a developer. They don't even name a company. There's not a single source in here. There's not a name. There's not a name of a company. There's nothing. Probably because you could look them up and see that they're Satanists or something. Now, this was developed by non-Christians, but it is pretty. I mean, it's so offensive just right off the bat.
So you don't want to.
I can't imagine a single Christian being like, "Oh, thank God for Pray the Bible."
Their Patreon page here has Pray the Bible app, AI assisted. Never pray the same way again. You can support them ad-free support, basic for $5 a month. You can go premium at $50 a month, or you can do a product placement promotion, $500 a month. Guess how many?
For $500 a month, we could have product placement in the AI Bible prayer thing. What is it at the end? Say, "Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. In your name we pray. This prayer was brought to you by Canary Cry News Talk." Come and get it.
Well, you said there's nobody interested in this. There are 0 patrons so far, so it's kind of sad, actually. If they are Christians, then it's not great that they're,
Let's go into I don't have my stuff. We could go on the App Store because they tell you how many downloads. What is it called? It's called Pray the Bible.
Pray the Bible. Yeah.
See if I can look underneath my thing here. This is ludicrous. This sounds like a Chinese psyop is what it sounds like. The data. Think of the data gathering opportunities for this.
We've seen articles about prayer, religion, and data gathering, and customized prayer. Didn't Facebook? Weren't they going to do some kind of thing like that where you can kind of curate your prayers or something? Share it with the community.
No, there was another company like this. We've covered a couple of companies like this. This is the first one with AI. But yes, there's I can't remember the name of it now. We've done full breakdowns of other quote unquote Christian apps.
I'm looking at
I just tried to pull it up. It didn't show up in my
I have the App Store preview here.
Preview.
Yeah, Pray the Bible - AI assisted. Doesn't look like there's any reviews or anything yet.
That's weird because I just looked actually on my phone and did not have it in there.
Seller Heath Barker. I bet that's the guy. That's the guy who made the Barker. Yeah, the guy who made the Barker.
He made his own chain reference thing.
That's why it says modern. What did it say? What was the words? Reference to modern or relevance today. Topics of relevance today. Which is like, okay, all right, interesting. That's an interesting
Heath Barker.
Heath Barker, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Wonder if he has a LinkedIn.
Gemini Transportation. I don't know. How many Heath Barkers do you think are out there?
I'm seeing a few.
I'm seeing a lot.
Can't
hard to know which one might be the one.
Okay, hold on. There's Heath Barker, teacher at Christian Brothers School.
Oh, hey, that's the one, yeah.
Okay, so you'd have to do Heath Barker Christian is probably I'm seeing this guy. Here we go. This is Marquis Top Educators.
Marquis Top Educators.
There it is. Yeah.
There you go. There's a little
he's a teacher.
Shot of the guy. Okay.
Is this him? I don't know.
Heath B. Barker.
Yeah.
Teacher, Christian Brothers School.
Well, if he made his own chain reference guide, there's a good chance he's in academics.
Yeah. It says here he's earned a bachelor's degree from the University of New Orleans.
See, his mistake is why even make an AI app for humans to pray? Why not just make the AI pray it?
They do it better than us anyway, That's what they say anyway.
That's what we're here, yeah.
Buttermeyer Institute of Liaison Studies Lassallian Social Justice Institute. Oh, okay.
Lausanne?
Maybe Lausanne. I don't know. LASALLIAN.
Yeah, I don't know.
Lassallian.
Okay, cool. Well,
anyway.
There you go. Go for it. Robots.
Yeah.
I can't imagine any Christian would actually use this, but
I'm wondering if this app is actually him sitting with ChatGPT-4, and then anytime a prayer request comes in with you can fill in maybe different things, you just cut and paste, throw it in ChatGPT, and then spit it out. And
that is probably exactly what it is. It's probably he grabbed his own instance of ChatGPT, and then you put in your prayer request, and then it just runs a script that it adds the prompt into a ChatGPT-4. Write me a prayer that involves.
Listen to this. I tried a ChatGPT-4 request here, and I'll read out my request.
A prayer request,
yeah. Or to formulate a prayer. So what I said was write a short prayer, less than 500 characters, for Canary Cry News Talk listeners using Ephesians 6 about the armor of God, mainstream news, deception, deconstruction, spiritual protection, mindful diligence, the duty of a watchman. I just threw in a few things that our show's about and stuff like that.
Sure.
Here's what it spit out. Heavenly Father, we come before you seeking the armor of God as described in Ephesians 6. In these times of deception and the chaos of mainstream news, we pray for discernment and spiritual protection. Grant us the wisdom to deconstruct falsehoods and courage to uphold truth. As watchmen, help us maintain mindful diligence in guarding our hearts and minds. Strengthen us, Lord, to stand firm in the face of darkness and to be beacons of light for others. In Jesus' name, amen. I mean,
well, can't argue with that.
Not wrong.
Nothing
in the actual
really to argue with.
Sort of formulation of the words. Now, how we got there, that could be
definitely not something that we couldn't have thought up ourselves.
No, not at all. But it's just
all we did was save some time, I guess.
Well, that's the thing with ChatGPT 4 is it's going to, man, you know how the barrier of entry with, art and I'm not going to say you don't need skill to do like Photoshop or something. You do. You kind of need to know how the tools work and you need to be creative and things like that. But you don't have to be like an art major to hop on to Photoshop and start doing things, like actually doing things for art or whatever. Similarly, music's the same thing, lowered the barrier of entry. Now anybody can make a beat or whatever. I'm worried that ChatGPT is going to do the same thing, but for like everything, like
for
even
salvation.
More. Even for salvation, I suppose, or at least in terms of the context of
a
doing
developed prayer life. Yeah, I should ask it to write a sermon, see how that goes.
I think somebody did that. Didn't we report on somebody who wrote?
No, it was mentioned in there that some clergy were using it for research.
Right.
But it was a conversation about like, oh, it could never write a sermon or they're not using it for that. They're just using it for research, which I think is even more hilarious because it's like ChatGPT is famous for not quite being entirely factual.
Right. Yeah.
Anywho. All right. Well, don't get that app. It sounds like a bad app. I don't know. Maybe I'll get the app.
Stick to pen and paper, folks.
Check it out. Yeah. There's always pen and paper. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, man. We went a little late today, but we had some deep dives we had to do. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Thank you to the producers who are the only reason that is possible. But we think these producers came in with their finances, came in with their talent, but we got some that give us their time. Let's thank them now. Starting with the Clippies.
Clipping all those videos.
Thanks. Thank you to Emsworth, Faye Livren, Jones, and Laura for, man, what a great team. They're clipping out the show, creating content out of the show, managing the YouTube channel. It's a good time. So you can find Canary Cry Clips on YouTube and Odyssey. Go check it out. Yeah. Thank you very much. And that's possible because of our timestampers.
Timestamp. It's hard work. Timestamp.
Timestamp. That's right. The timestampers are also very important because the timestamps go into so much of our back-end processes that so much we could never accomplish what we do if it weren't for the timestampers. And I want to thank the timestamper, Christine C, for coming in, doing the timestamps for episode 604. Very helpful.
Thank you very much.
Of course, thank you to our social media gal.
Social media consultant.
Thanks so much.
Social media, follow us.
Yep, Dame Miss G, the OV, and the Deep Rivers, making sure that the art gets up on the social media. Appreciate that. Go ahead, leave some ratings and reviews. This would be the day that I'd be reading some ratings and reviews. We're so far behind, I don't know if I should do that because Gons is going to be so stressed if we take more time than we need. So I will say this. We need ratings and reviews. They're very important, and we have no control over it. So many of you are listening to this on Apple Podcasts. So we just take a second. Just take it 1 second. 1 second. Leave us a rating and a review. It's super helpful to us. And it's really up to the listeners. Having a bunch of ratings and reviews come in during the week, especially positive ones, goes a long way for new people to find the show. The algorithms share it. It also just makes us feel all warm and fuzzy. That's nice. And you know what? We're almost to 1,000. We're approaching 1,000. Yeah. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal. If we could get that 1K, That would be so sick, and you can be a part of that. So go leave us ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. We will read them when we have more time. So thank you very much for those who do that, have done that, and please, if you haven't, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? What do you got going on? You're so busy, can't leave us a rating or a review. I don't believe it for a second. But other than that, thanks, Jam, for the links. Thanks, Clank, for the assistance. Thanks to everybody who sent in articles to canarycry.report. And other than that, share the show. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Share it with your social media. And share it via technology. Share it via sand. That's how we can use sand. Look, we're not going to get together a Canary Cry silicon foundry where we gather up a bunch of sand, melt it down, and build sort of a house of cards upon an unstable foundation, much like the technocratic overlords of our civilization have been so obsessed with doing. No! Instead, we're going to have a Canary Cry Beach Day. Woo! Come on, everybody, let's go. We're going to go to the beach. We're going to get a tan. And we're going to get all the Canarians. All the Canarians. Build a bunch of sand castles, and then we will write out in the sand with our bare hands Canary Cry News Talk. It'll be so big they can see it from space, and then all those Chinese spy satellites are going to be like, what are the Americans up to? What are they doing? What sort of beachside military operation is this? And they'll look at the beach with their satellites, and they'll say, uh-oh, we're in big trouble, because the Americans and also the Europeans and also the South Africans and also, let me go hit the charts. Let's see who else are really into this podcast, and they're sending us a message. Oh no, the Swiss. Oh, the Swiss are listening. Let's see, number 26 in Romania. Romania loves us. What's up, Romania? All right, Romania, we'll see you at the beach. Ooh, we're number 33 in South Korea. Hey, South Korea. Okay, we'll get South Korea, Romania, 87 in South Africa. Everybody go to the beach. We'll start covering the world's beaches with just some text, just some simple text that says, think outside the cage. And then boom, everybody in the world knows. Thanks to you, Romania. All right, everybody. Yeah.
I thought you were talking about South Korea.
If we need any more instructions, here's what you do. We call it rattling cages, and you just got to walk right up to them, grab them by the cage, and then you shake.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right, just ask Noah. Guns, any last words?
Have a great weekend, everybody. Sunday is the Heaven's Gate Mass Suicide UFO Cult Awareness Day?
Yeah, UFO Cult Awareness Day. That's great. Canary Cry calendar strikes again.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time. But until then, think outside the cage.
Yeah, we're going to go now. We'll see you guys.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
What am I doing?
Farewell.
Yes.
Arrivederci.
This is the way.
We're all gonna die.
This is the way.
It will kill.
This is the way.
We will hunt you down and make you pay.
This is the way.
This is not about freedom or personal choice.
I'll keep you warm and safe in my people too.
Toilets!
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Buy!
And thank you also to President Biden. You can judge a strong man when he has strong women around him.
How many lies will be told before the truth will be known? They try to suppress light, but the darkness cannot hide in the Father of lights. There is no darkness or even a shadow of turning. How will you judge unjustly? Accept the persons of the wicked. Defend the poor and the fatherless. You overcome evil always by doing good. They try to suppress light, but the darkness cannot hide in the Father of lights. There is no darkness, nor a shadow of turning. No.
Goodbye, everybody. And that's the end. And everyone says, oh, that was fun. Bye, 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 bye. I'm out of here. Bye.
CanaryCryRadio.com/support.